Chapter 1663. Even if Niu Shuian is an idiot, he understands that his meager power is not enough in the eyes of this group of people. Let him go and fight. What can he use to fight? Jiang Feng's thinking is very simple. This guy has been idling for half a day, it is time to go. Although he is a bit trash, he can still be considered as a fighting force. There is a saying, no matter how small a fly is, it is still a piece of meat. Although Niu Shuian's strength is not even comparable to a fly. I am willing to do my part. Long Fengyu knows that it is time for them to contribute their strength. Although he is only at the peak of perfection, he is not too far off from a generation's grandmaster. With the help of Niu Shuian, a grandmaster expert, and Cheng Mohan, a sound wave expert, Long Fengyu is somewhat confident. He was someone who had an agreement with Jiang Feng. This time, the reason why Jiang Feng brought him into the group of 6 was so that he could get some results and get more credit. If Li Fan is defeated and the Li family is destroyed, then this is a huge cake. How much he can eat will depend on how much he has to pay. Sect leader Niu, let us attack Guan Wenbao together first. Long Fengyu pulls out a sword, turns around and says to Niu Shuian, let Cheng Mohan support us with sound wave from behind. All right. Niu Shuian says in his heart, if the 3 of them attack together, it should be enough to deal with that Guan Wenbao. Damn it, so what if you ride a horse? What is the use of riding a horse now? Instead, it is a burden. Attack. Long Fengyu gives the order and the 2 of them instantly pounce towards Guan Wenbao. Long Fengyu thrusts the sword in his hand towards the horse's leg. Niu Shuian directly kicks Guan Wenbao, preparing to kick him off the horse. On the other side, a few sword sounds fly out from Cheng Mohan's flute and attack Guan Wenbao from a distance. Guan Wenbao is not panicking. He raises his horse's head and front leg and directly dodges Long Fengyu's attack. At the same time, he raised his saber and swept it on Niu Shuian's body, immediately cutting off one of his arms. Blood and his arm flew out together, accompanied by Niu Shuian's painful cries that resounded in the courtyard. When Cheng Mohan's sword sound reached Guan Wenbao, it was blocked by an invisible force field and slid to the other side. Because of the integration of internal force, the sound of the sword was also affected by Yang Kai's Tai Chi divine exercise, and was obediently led to the side. At the same time, the blade in Guan Wenbao's hand fell down. Long Fengyu was forced to roll on the ground in a sorry state. Using a graceful donkey roll, he barely managed to dodge Guan Wenbao's blade. But his hair bun had been chopped off, and his hair hung loosely like a ghost. Lisa's front hooves landed on the ground, and her back hooves kicked Long Fengyu into the air. Just as Long Fengyu flew up from the pain, Guan Wenbao instantly turned around and slashed at Long Fengyu's waist, cutting him in half. Poor Long Fengyu, an ambitious and ruthless person, but in the end, his head was separated from his body and he was buried on the Li family's island. Niu Shuian had lost an arm, and was bitterly resentful of the world. But seeing that Long Fengyu had lost his life, he immediately calmed down. Miss Cheng, I'm sorry. Guan Wenbao was a stubborn person, and he did not have any protective feelings for the fairer sex. He directly rode on his war horse and rushed towards Cheng Mohan. At the same time, he dragged his crescent moon blade on the ground, waiting to cut Cheng Mohan into 2. Enough. Cheng Mohan was also one of his generals, and he would not allow anything to happen to her. Thus, he directly made his move. With a wave of the folding fan in his hand, a huge black tiger flew out and directly pounced on Lisa, knocking the strong war horse to the ground. Guan Wenbao was afraid that Lisa would have any mishaps, so he raised his blade and slashed the black tiger away. On the other hand, Lisa's body was already covered with scratches. Guan Wenbao patted its butt and let it go first. Lisa was Guan Wenbao's treasure. Even young Shuiyu, who had followed Guan Wenbao for a long time, felt that Lisa's position in Guan Wenbao's heart was more important than her. Lisa was psychic, and knew her master's intention, so she ran to the side. That black tiger pounced again, and this time, it directly pounced towards Guan Wenbao's throat. Guan Wenbao held his crescent moon blade horizontally, and a Tai Chi diagram appeared in front of him. When the black tiger pounced on the diagram, its body was twisted and fell to the side. The 2 of you together are indeed powerful. The black tiger returned to Jiang Feng's side. Its master opened his folding fan again and looked at Guan Wenbao and Yang Kai. The two of you actually managed to train to the strength of a semisage. This is truly worthy of celebration. Thank you for the compliment. Yang Kai did not stand on ceremony and laughed. This Taoist is handsome and smart. It's only right that I have such achievements. Jiang Feng thought to himself, this brother is really thick-skinned. Does he not know how to be humble at all? Everyone said that Yang Kai, the abandoned disciple of Wudang sect, was pompous. It seemed that the rumors were true. He and Guan Wenbao, one flamboyant and the other steady, were a good pair of partners. They complemented each other's shortcomings. Since this is the last round, let me personally spar with the two of you. Jiang Feng put away his folding fan and seemed to be serious. Fists and kicks are silent. If the two of you die, don't blame me. Life and death are decreed by fate. Riches and honor are determined by the heavens. Guan Wenbao said bluntly, bring it on. As he spoke, he activated the ability of the martial god's true body. This martial god's true body transformed into a warhorse and galloped to the front of Guan Wenbao. Guan Wenbao directly leaped onto the horse. Come on. Jiang Feng did not even take out his sword. He only let his black tiger pounce on Guan Wenbao. The black tiger seemed to be Jiang Feng's clone. It was nearly 4 meters long and looked very terrifying. However, at this moment, a black and white Tai Chi diagram appeared on the ground. It had a radius of 2 meters and protected Guan Wenbao within it. The tiger pounced over, but its body suddenly sank and lay heavily on the ground, as if it had been sucked in by the Tai Chi diagram. Jiang Feng was also very impressed with Yang Kai's martial arts. This kind of control of power was probably Yang Kai alone since ancient times. The power of Tai Chi could actually be used in this way. The tiger was sucked in. Guan Wenbao rode the warhorse and arrived in front of the tiger. He slashed at the tiger's head. The tiger raised its head and used its teeth to bite Guan Wenbao's crescent moon blade. The two of you work well together. However, even if you two are half-saints, you still won't be able to achieve the effect of a saint. Jiang Feng reminded them, what's more, even a saint is not my match. As soon as Jiang Feng finished speaking, the tiger suddenly resisted Yang Kai's Tai Chi diagram. It stood up and let out a shocking roar. Roar. The entire castle seemed to tremble as the Tai Chi diagram shattered. Guan Wenbao's body was also sent flying and fell heavily into the distance. Chapter 1664. The difference in strength was too great. After learning the true immortal technique, Jiang Feng's strength was close to that of the 5 saints. Although Guan Wenbao and Yang Kai were already very strong, especially when they joined forces, they could almost deal with a true saint-level expert. But after all, their strength was incomparable to Jiang Feng's. Thus, after Jiang Feng showed his true strength, he was instantly defeated. Jiang Feng, on the other hand, was not happy. He knew that Li Fan intentionally let the two of them experience this battle of great disparity in strength. Only by letting them fight a battle of life and death with a saint-level expert would they understand the gap between them and the saints, and also have a direction to work towards. Jiang Feng felt that after this battle, with Guan Wenbao and Yang Kai's talent, they would most likely quickly break through the shackles of the saint level and enter a higher realm. Li Fan, your people have already been defeated. It's time for you to come out and show your face, right? Jiang Feng shouted loudly. The martial emperor crossed his arms and stood behind, watching coldly from the side. After fighting all the way until now, it was time to meet the main character. Master is waiting for you in the tower behind. Wang Xiaoran stood on the roof of a nearby building and said to them in a clear voice, everyone, please. Li Fan, we are coming. The martial emperor could not wait any longer. He did not even take the stairs. He bent his knees slightly and suddenly leaped up, jumping more than 10 meters high. He smashed the wall with his palm and jumped into the tower. Jiang Feng did not dare to be slow. He called Cheng Mohan and hurriedly followed behind. The two of them entered the tower one after another, only to see Li Fan sitting on a throne inlaid with gold and jade, circulating his qi to regulate his breathing in boredom. You're finally here. Li Fan opened his eyes and looked at the martial emperor. How many are left? And Jiang Feng. The martial emperor patted the dust off his body and looked at Li Fan. How is it? You did not expect this, right? Today it is our turn to join forces. Fortunately, I thought about it. Li Fan shrugged. Every dog has its day. Moreover, my good second brother is a fence-sitter. Isn't it bad to talk behind people's backs? Jiang Feng waved his fan and jumped into the hole. He stood in front of Li Fan with a smile on his face. If you have anything to say, why don't we talk face to face? Compared to you guys, I'd rather chat with Miss Cheng. Li Fan's gaze fell on the third beauty who came in. Miss Cheng, we're classmates after all. Aren't you going to say something when you see me? It is my honor that Villa Master Li still remembers me. Cheng Mohan tenderly smiled. However, this little girl has a short life and is not worth mentioning. Manor Lord, please don't take this little girl to heart. How can I not take it to heart? Li Fan smiled. Miss Cheng is beautiful and plays the piano well. Which man could forget you? Third brother, you seem to be in a good mood. Jiang Feng waved his fan as he looked at Li Fan. At this time, you're still talking to a beauty. The two of you are indeed very strong, but your attractiveness to me is not as good as this Miss Cheng. Li Fan revealed a very modest smile. After all, the two of you are my defeated opponents. Jiang Feng, don't make a move first. The martial emperor waved his hand. I will first meet with this Villa Master Li. Just as he finished speaking, the martial emperor had already appeared in front of Li Fan. Following that, he sent a palm straight towards Li Fan's head. Immortal Azure Emperor C. Calming. If this slap landed, even an iron ball would be flattened. However, Li Fan only raised his arm and used his elbow to block the martial emperor's palm. They're fighting just like that. Li Fan did not have the slightest bit of fear. He instantly bounced up and followed up with a flying knee. The martial emperor also extended his hand to block it, but the power of the flying knee still forced the martial emperor to take a step back. Following that, Li Fan continuously turned around and kicked 12 times in a row, forcing the martial emperor to retreat. It was obvious that he was at a disadvantage. The martial emperor didn't even have the time to speak. Li Fan's continuous kicks left him powerless to fight back. He didn't even have the chance to find a flaw in his attack. The martial emperor wanted to use his Qing Gong to fly back, but Li Fan seemed to be stuck to him, steadily maintaining a distance, making the martial emperor feel especially sullen. Bam! In the end, the martial emperor used the great non-phase technique and pushed it onto Li Fan's body. However, Li Fan raised his leg and chopped down like a battle axe, directly splitting the energy sent by the martial emperor in half. Flame Emperor Prairie Fire. The martial emperor finally found a little bit of an opportunity. He directly sent out a palm, bringing with it a surging flame, towards Li Fan. Bam! Li Fan, on the other hand, was very ordinary. He kicked his leg, and his foot collided with the martial emperor's palm. A powerful force spread out, and then the two of them took a step back at the same time. How did you train? The martial emperor frowned deeply. How did your leg technique improve so quickly? Do you want to know? Li Fan laughed. Take me as your master, I can teach you. You're courting death. The martial emperor flew into a rage. This Li Fan was too arrogant. Do you think you're the only one who's improving? The power on the martial emperor's body exploded. His golden energy fused with the green light, forming an even clearer set of dragon-shaped armor that draped over his body. Li Fan, your time of death has come. As the martial emperor spoke, a green great spear appeared in his hand. The Azure Dragon was most proficient in using long spears. At this time, the martial emperor had fused his Xuanyuan sword technique together, forming his own set of spear technique. One spear to decide the 9 provinces. The spear was like a dragon. That green great spear instantly arrived in front of him. However, Li Fan's palm moved outwards, trying to push aside the martial emperor's spear. However, the martial emperor had already put on his avatar. He was 4 meters tall, and his great spear was more than 5 meters long. The power on his spear directly broke through Li Fan's palm and pierced right in front of Li Fan's throat. Li Fan's hands moved like shadows, grabbing onto the spear's shaft, forcefully grabbing onto the spear, stopping it in front of his throat. Ignorant. The martial emperor sneered. He raised his spear, and actually lifted Li Fan's body high up into the air. Show me your true abilities. All right. Li Fan nodded his head. Following that, his body suddenly emitted a blue and white lightning, swimming in all directions. Heavenly Thunder Transformation, 3rd stage. The martial emperor had used his true abilities, and Li Fan had also used his full strength to show his respect. Li Fan's body also expanded to a height of 3 meters. He pressed down once again, forcing the martial emperor's spear back, and he himself fell to the ground. Heaven punishing slash. The martial emperor took out his great spear, raised it high, and then smashed it down heavily towards Li Fan. Open. Li Fan turned around and kicked the martial emperor's great spear away. Then, taking advantage of the fact that the martial emperor was wide open, he kicked him in the chest. However, the martial emperor did not budge. Instead, he slapped his palm on Li Fan's ankle, causing Li Fan's calf to go numb, and he took a step back. Chapter 1665. The two of them were almost equal in strength, but Li Fan's body seemed to be more flexible, like the air, gravity. All of this was not a restraint to him. Li Fan's leg technique was natural. The martial emperor had so many years of fighting experience, but compared to Li Fan's leg technique, it was simply childish. The martial emperor was very unhappy in his heart. He had trained hard in martial arts for so many years, and even endured humiliation to enter the sky beyond sky to learn this true immortal technique. But why was he still inferior to Li Fan? It was only a few months. Why was the gap getting bigger and bigger? Impossible. The martial emperor let out a roar. Only I am the strongest. As he said that, his body swelled up a bit, and the muscles on his body were almost twisted into steel. He took a kick from Li Fan, and then suddenly grabbed Li Fan's ankle and lifted him up. Hit. The martial emperor lifted Li Fan with one hand, and slapped Li Fan's body with the other, causing his body to burst out with a burst of energy. Great non-phase technique. Then, the martial emperor suddenly pushed his palm, and Li Fan's body flew into the air and stuck to the ceiling. I am the emperor. Emperor Dragon Palm. The martial emperor clasped his hands together and directly struck a palm at Li Fan. Boom. The ceiling was directly shattered, and Li Fan's body was also sent flying. Li Fan flew more than 10 meters high, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and then flipped over and landed on the ground again. Not bad, again. Li Fan suddenly sped up, his body rotated again, and his leg flew out like a falling battle axe, falling towards the martial emperor's head. The martial emperor raised his hand to block, and used his arm to block Li Fan's kick. But the ground under the martial emperor's feet began to collapse. With a bang, the martial emperor's body broke through the floor. With the force of Li Fan's kick, he broke through 3 floors in a row and finally fell to the ground on the 1st floor. As for Li Fan, he landed on the ground and continuously kicked the martial monarch, causing him to take a few more steps back. In the end, Li Fan finally pushed away the martial emperor's arms and kicked him in the face, sending him flying out of the tower. His body was like a cannonball, smashing into the courtyard outside. The martial emperor jumped up from the rubble, patted off the dust on his body, and glared at Li Fan. Let me help you. Jiang Feng could tell that the martial monarch was still inferior to Li Fan even if he used his avatar. He could no longer sit and wait for death, so he picked up a sword and descended from the sky towards Li Fan. The sword in his hand had completely condensed into a black color, and with a faint whistling sound, it went straight for Li Fan. At this time, Jiang Feng was wearing a nanoalloy armor. This armor was very light and thin, but it could cooperate with Jiang Feng's nanocore to unleash the power of a saint. Although he only had the power of a saint, the sword in his hand had the power to kill a celestial. This thing even surpassed the Shongfang sword. It was a real super divine weapon. Die. Jiang Feng descended from the sky and actually used the Immerse sect's white horse treads on the snow. His body was in the air, and his sword went straight for Li Fan's head. Swoosh. Li Fan's body slid backwards, and Jiang Feng's sword stabbed into the ground. Bang! The ground directly cracked, and several black lights shone out from the cracks. The martial emperor and Li Fan both looked at Jiang Feng, and the two of them finally realized how terrifying Jiang Feng was. I underestimated you. When the martial emperor said this, his heart was filled with endless hidden bitterness. He originally thought that just giving Jiang Feng 3 pages of the true immortal arts would not have much of an impact. Who knew that he would actually take a different approach and come up with such a brilliant move? Your Majesty the martial emperor, let me help you. Jiang Feng pulled out the black sword, held it in his hand, and looked at Li Fan. Third brother, how is it? This is a set that I created, called the Flying Immortal Formless Sword. It is very powerful. It was possible for Li Fan to condense his inner force into a sword, but to condense it into this kind of peerless divine weapon was basically impossible. Your Majesty the martial emperor, let's work together and kill him first. Now that things have come to this, we can only do so. Although the martial emperor did not really like fighting 2 against 1, he could only do so for now. I will restrain him, you directly kill him. As the martial emperor spoke, he stretched out his hand and began to attack Li Fan. The martial emperor condensed that long spear again and flicked it towards Li Fan. Almost in a flash, the martial emperor's long spear arrived in front of Li Fan, and then a row of spear shadows were thrusted out. Li Fan's hands moved continuously, constantly blocking these spear shadows. But Jiang Feng once again descended from the sky, thrusting his sword towards Li Fan. Jiang Feng's flying immortal formless sword was like a shadow, and in the blink of an eye, it had already arrived above Li Fan's head. With the martial emperor and Jiang Feng working together to unleash this move, even Li Fan would find it difficult to block. Dragon soaring through the 9 heavens. Under Jiang Feng's sharp sword, Li Fan could only quickly retreat. In a flash, he appeared 20 meters away. Brother, it seems like you can't do it this time. Jiang Feng held the black sword and looked at Li Fan. Why don't you let Imperial Concubine Ju come out and help you? Maybe she can help a little. No need. Just as Li Fan finished speaking, the lightning on his body suddenly disappeared, and his body gradually returned to the appearance of an ordinary person. The martial emperor was the same. He had also returned to his original height, and the time for him to forcefully activate his avatar had also passed. It seems like the 2 of you have consumed a lot of energy in this battle. At this moment, Jiang Feng was clearly the strongest person on the scene. The black sword in his hand was too much of a threat to Li Fan and the martial emperor. Thank you for your concern, second brother. I still have some ability to protect myself. As Li Fan spoke, his body shook once again, and blue lightning swam out. He once again entered the power of the first stage of the heavenly thunder transformation. He had previously trained hard, and had truly entered the power of the 10 saints, which was the power of an inferior immortal. Now that he had activated the first stage of the heavenly thunder transformation, it was the power of the 20 saints. At the same time, Li Fan's legs were wrapped in 2 pieces of leg armor, 1 red and 1 white. They were the incarnations of the white tiger and the divine fox, which made Li Fan's strength slightly stronger. Azure Dragon's power, Black Tortoise's power. No one knew when the martial emperor had gone to attack the Black Tortoise Pagoda again. He held the azure spear, and his body was covered in a black armor. The martial emperor also held back a certain amount of strength. Sure enough, both of you are hiding something. Everything was as Jiang Feng had expected. Your Majesty the martial emperor, please help me continue to restrain Li Fan. Oh, do you really think so? The martial emperor no longer trusted Jiang Feng. He knew that if he continued to fight with Li Fan, Jiang Feng, this unparalleled divine weapon, might stab into his heart from the back. How about, the 2 of us join hands? Li Fan winked at the martial emperor. The 2 of us kill Jiang Feng together. What do you think? H, don't try to deceive me. Both of you are nothing good. Chapter 1666. The martial emperor did not have much trust in Jiang Feng. After all, Jiang Feng did not give him the feeling that he could trust him. The martial emperor was not stupid. He knew that Jiang Feng was an extremely ambitious person. As for Li Fan looked like a good guy, righteous, and generous. Actually, this kid was very black-bellied. Whoever thought that he was chivalrous, simple, was an idiot. The only person he could temporarily trust was the barehead man. Unfortunately, He was too strong and brainless, and was directly killed by Li Fan's disciple in the previous battle. That so-called 100-man army could only have some fighting strength when they all attacked together. Your Majesty the Martial Emperor, with your wisdom, you should understand who is the most beneficial to cooperate with right now. Jiang Feng was like a successful lobbyist. He continued to throw out an olive branch to the Martial Emperor. Li Fan is our common enemy, right? And between you and me, there is no conflict of interest. I will definitely help you. If there was no Jiang Yi, I might still believe what you said. The Martial Emperor said directly, if I want to get rid of Li Fan, I'm afraid that little girl Jiang Yi will not sit still and wait for death, right? If you do it for her, you will definitely bite back at me. Those who achieve great things do not bother about trifles. Jiang Feng had a smile on his face. The Martial Emperor can trust me a little more in this aspect. I beg to differ. Look, I'm so loyal, but you don't trust me. Jiang Feng sighed lightly, then looked at Li Fan. Third brother, since the Martial Emperor is not willing to cooperate with me, then how about you cooperate with me? The Martial Emperor almost vomited blood. This was called loyalty? Motherfucker. All right. Li Fan immediately agreed, causing the Martial Emperor to almost vomit blood. However, I can't guarantee that I won't stab you in the back. Li Fan then said, I can't guarantee that you won't stab me in the back. After all, you and I don't like each other. That's true, then it's going to be difficult. Jiang Feng looked at the two of them. Could it be that the three of us are going to have a chaotic battle? The problem was, the three of them fighting each other was the most disadvantageous plan. Once the battle royal began, the three of them would restrain each other, and it would be difficult for them to go all out. The three of us can be considered to be at the pinnacle of the current martial arts world. Li Fan thought for a moment and said, it's not good to be so hesitant. Why don't the two of you join hands? Aren't you afraid? Jiang Feng raised his eyebrows. When has little tyrant Li Fan ever been afraid? Li Fan laughed heartily. You too, feel free to come. His words caused Jiang Feng and the martial monarch to hesitate. Both of them were not easy to deal with, especially Jiang Feng, who was very suspicious. For Li Fan to say something like that, did he have something to rely on? Could it be that he had a way to defeat both of them at the same time? Launch a nuclear weapon? This should be his last resort. He was so confident because he definitely had a good plan that made him very confident. Jiang Feng brat, just watch. I will defeat Li Fan alone. The martial monarch could no longer hold it in. He was originally incomparably proud, but today, he was actually restrained by the other two brats, causing him to be fearful. This was not like him at all. Looking at Li Fan, he was rather carefree, like a true expert. He was a martial monarch, he should be able to sweep through everything. Watch my godly spear. The martial monarch grabbed the great spear and directly leaped over. The spear was like a dragon. Li Fan raised his leg and directly kicked the martial monarch's great spear away. At the same time, with a hand blade, a lightning blade appeared and slashed to the side, forcing Jiang Feng, who took the opportunity to sneak attack, to retreat. Didn't I tell you to watch? When the martial monarch saw that Jiang Feng had made a move, he immediately became somewhat angry. I'm also a little itchy. Jiang Feng chuckled. The martial monarch could not be bothered with him. Right now, the most important thing was to determine the victor between them and Li Fan. If he did not get rid of Li Fan, he would have a way to destroy the entire Li family island, and he would not be able to carry out his plan to destroy the human race. As for the clown Jiang Feng, he would just let him mess around on the side. Li Fan, hand over your life. The martial monarch brandished his spear horizontally, and with a sweep of 1,000 troops, he once again slapped towards Li Fan. Li Fan once again raised his leg and kicked away the spear that the martial monarch had thrown over. He was wearing the white tiger and divine fox leg armor, so he could contend against the martial monarch's azure dragon spear. Azure dragon point water. Li Fan's body flashed, and suddenly appeared behind the martial monarch. Following that, he stabbed his leg, and instantly kicked the martial monarch's back. Clang! The black tortoise armor was incomparably hard, it shook off Li Fan's leg. Ha! My black tortoise armor is invincible. The martial monarch laughed out loud. Just you alone, Don't even think about breaking my armor. Clang. Another metallic sound rang out, and a row of dazzling sparks lit up on the armor on the martial monarch's arm. Jiang Feng stood at the side, looking at the black sword in his hand. He could not help but exclaim, "Aya, your defense is really not bad." Damn thing. The martial monarch was burning with rage. This fellow had indeed made his move. "Don't be angry, I'm just trying out your armor." As Jiang Feng spoke, he once again raised his black sword. The light on the sword actually blazed even more fiercely. "Why don't you let me try again?" The martial monarch was not confident. He looked at his arm, and there was a huge sword scar on it. It was a ghastly sight. Jiang Feng's sword was too terrifying. Although the defense of the black tortoise armor was astonishing, it might not be 100% effective against a divine weapon. "Let me try first." Li Fan suddenly kicked out, and directly sent Jiang Feng's body flying. Bam! Jiang Feng's body smashed into the nearby castle, causing dust to billow into the air. One spear to settle the 9 provinces. The martial monarch took the opportunity to stab with his spear, chasing after Li Fan. Dragon Lock Divine Weapon. Li Fan used his leg to execute the dragon subduing sword's move. His leg directly locked onto the martial monarch's spear shaft, causing the martial monarch's spear to be restrained and unable to be pulled out. Thunder Dragon Blast. Li Fan clasped his hands together, and blue lightning appeared in his palms. He was prepared to slash out with a lightning blade at any time, and directly take the martial monarch's head. The martial monarch was not careless either. His other hand condensed a golden radiance, and he was about to strike out with his palm, using the wind from his palm to kill Li Fan. But at this time, a huge black sword descended from the sky. It was unknown when Jiang Feng had jumped out, but the black sword in his hand had actually become more than 10 meters long, like a divine weapon of a giant spirit god. He directly held it in his hand, and it descended from the sky, descending towards Li Fan and the martial monarch. Thunder Dragon Blast. White Emperor supports the heavens. Li Fan and the martial monarch did not dare to be negligent. The two of them threw out the moves in their hands at the same time. A 5-meter-long lightning blade and a 7-meter-long golden palm print soared into the sky, meeting the gigantic black sword head-on. Boom! It was as if the air had exploded. The entire space was trembling. The black sword collapsed, the palm print shattered, and the lightning blade exploded. The 3 of them were sent flying by the powerful force, smashing into the ground in all directions. Chapter 1667. At this moment, the 3 of them were almost equal in terms of strength. None of them was weaker than the other. Li Fan had said that they were all top-notch experts in the martial arts world. Actually, Li Fan was being modest. The strength of the 3 of them had long surpassed the scope of martial artists. Martial Emperor had cultivated the first volume of the perfected immortal arts and was already approaching the level of an exalted immortal. His own strength was also at the level of an inferior immortal. Coupled with the assistance of 2 divine weapons, his strength was explosive. As for Jiang Feng, he had cultivated 3 pages of the perfected immortal arts. Although his own strength was only at the level of a martial sage, he had an unparalleled divine weapon in hand. Coupled with his resourcefulness, no one dared to underestimate him. As for Li Fan, with his own cultivation of Tai Chi in reverse and the training in the gravity room, his strength had surpassed the martial arts world and was close to that of the immortal realm. Could a martial artist cultivate to the level of an immortal? Martial Emperor did not believe it, Jiang Feng did not believe it, but Li Fan had really done it. The 3 of them jumped out of the pit and started fighting again. Li Fan and Martial Emperor were basically fighting head-on. When faced with Jiang Feng's divine sword, they chose to avoid it or join forces to repel it. After a few clashes with the divine weapons, no matter if it was Li Fan's leg armor or the martial monarch's spear and armor, deep sword marks had appeared on them. Li Fan could even hear the divine fox and white tiger groaning. They would not be able to hold on for long under the attack of this Azura divine weapon. "We're having fun." As Jiang Feng spoke, he picked up his sword again. The sword instantly turned into a 10-meter-long sword. A glint flashed across Li Fan's eyes. He had been waiting for this moment. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Jiang Feng. While Jiang Feng was still gathering the power of the sword, he directly sent a flying kick straight at his face. "Brother, you've been tricked." Jiang Feng smiled, and his huge black sword suddenly disappeared without a trace. At the same time, a normal 3 feet long profound sword pierced towards Li Fan's leg. Li Fan didn't hold back in this kick. He originally wanted to finish off Jiang Feng in one move, but who would have thought that Jiang Feng was one step ahead and actually dug a pit here to wait for him. His leg armor had also reached its limit. If he were to face this sword, he was afraid that his leg armor would be pierced through. Li Fan's mind spun quickly. In that instant, he suddenly stretched out both hands towards Jiang Feng. Almost all the inner force in his body condensed in his palms. Dragon spitting pearl. Bang! The white chi bead shot out from Li Fan's palm with a shockwave, heading straight for Jiang Feng. At the same time, Li Fan's body stopped moving forward due to the recoil of the shockwave and flew backward. Jiang Feng didn't expect that Li Fan would be able to save himself. He was a little displeased. With a flick of his sword, he easily cut the white chi bead in half. He then raised his sword and chased after Li Fan relentlessly. The martial emperor also leaped up and appeared behind Li Fan. The spear in his hand stabbed towards Li Fan's back, as if he wanted to pierce through Li Fan, but on the other side, Jiang Feng's sword was also chasing after him. Li Fan's body was still under the inertia of the recoil and had no way to avoid the two of them. At this critical moment, Li Fan was in danger. However, Li Fan was someone who had experienced countless battles. He did not hesitate and instantly retracted his heavenly thunder transformation, and then his leg armor disappeared. Li Fan's entire body was covered in a scarlet red light. 2 red fox tails flew out and instantly wrapped around Jiang Feng and the martial emperor's bodies. The two of them didn't react in time because they were chasing after Li Fan with all their strength and didn't have any spare energy. 2 thick and powerful tails coiled around the two of them, directly pulling them together and smashing them heavily into the ground. Peng! The two of them collided with each other before being flung out and thrown to the ground. Li Fan's body flipped and landed on the wall of the castle. The 3 foxtails on his back returned to their normal size and pierced into the wall. His entire body hung on it. "Is it fun, the two of you?" Li Fan's hair turned scarlet red. When he displayed the power of the fox god, his emotions were more complicated and full of provocation. He could feel the emotions of the 9-tailed fox god. It was filled with a desire for freedom and a desire to take revenge on the world. But at the same time, she had a kind of fear towards Li Fan. Because Li Fan had seen that great cosmos god before. He was ultimately a sovereign and could casually create a terrifying absolute art like the heavenly thunder transformation. The reason why he let her off was because of Lin Tong. Regardless of whether she would have any ambitions in the future, the current 9-tailed fox god was very honest. She wholeheartedly supported Li Fan to become the strongest. Li Fan hung on the wall. Looking at the two of them below, he was once again filled with confidence. Fortunately, he had experienced countless battles in the cultivation room. At that time, Li Fan was constantly fighting with his opponents. This ability to adapt to the situation had practically become Li Fan's battle instinct. Relying on the power of that fox doesn't seem like your character. Jiang Feng held onto the black sword and looked at Li Fan, who was hanging in the air. "Don't you always like to rely on your own strength to fight?" "That's right. If you have the guts, use your own strength to fight." The martial emperor sneered. "The two of you are relying on the beyond heaven and the Azura Dao. You don't have the qualifications to say this to me, right?" Li Fan retorted. "Less nonsense. Watch my move." The martial emperor rushed towards Li Fan and directly struck out with a palm. A golden palm imprint soared into the sky and headed straight for Li Fan. Li Fan's legs bounced off the wall. He pulled out his tail and flipped in the air, dodging the martial emperor's palm imprint. Peng! A 7-meter-long palm imprint appeared on the wall of the castle. And Li Fan's body had already descended from the sky. He kicked towards the martial emperor. Under the support of the 9-tailed fox god, Li Fan's speed increased by several times. In an instant, he arrived in front of the martial emperor. Come. The martial emperor used the armor on his chest to block against Li Fan's kick. A white force exploded from his back, but he still withstood it. Die. The martial emperor grabbed Li Fan's ankle with one hand and raised his other hand, preparing to give Li Fan another palm strike. However, the three tails behind Li Fan suddenly flew out. Just like his piercing legs, they suddenly shot towards the martial emperor's body, hitting the top of his head, chest, and lower abdomen. Bam! The martial emperor's armor was smashed into a dent, and he was sent flying backwards. Jiang Feng suddenly appeared above Li Fan's head, and his sword pierced towards the top of Li Fan's head. Flying immortal formless sword. This nimble sword technique, coupled with Jiang Feng's divine weapon, was indeed powerful. However, Li Fan's tail shot out once again, directly bypassing Jiang Feng's sword and coiling around his body, destroying his center of gravity. It pulled him down and pulled him in front of Li Fan, turning him into a live target. Angrily behead the third prince. Li Fan swung his leg towards Jiang Feng's head. Chapter 1668. Li Fan had trained countless times, and his fighting method was very flexible. Although Jiang Feng's current fighting method was beyond his calculation, he quickly adapted and found the best way to deal with it. Although Jiang Feng's sword was powerful, his body was still at the sacred level and could not withstand his attack. At this time, Li Fan angrily beheaded the third prince and was ready to kick Jiang Feng's head. However, Jiang Feng suddenly threw out his black sword. This black sword, under the control of his great non-phase method, spun and slashed toward Li Fan. If Li Fan kicked Jiang Feng to death, his head would probably be cut off by this divine weapon. He had to let go of his tail and used his roaming dragon ninth heaven Qinggong to retreat 10 meters away, dodging Jiang Feng's sword. Jiang Feng stretched out his hand, and the black sword fell back into his hand. Brother, you are too confident. I will kill all of you. Martial Emperor's successive failures made him angry to the extreme. The martial monarch jumped over again and fought with the two of them. The three of them fought for more than 10 minutes, back and forth, and for a while, they were unable to determine the winner. However, their strength could not be used indefinitely. After more than 10 minutes, Li Fan and Martial Emperor were the first to consume too much energy and slowly dissipated the power of their transformation. Martial Emperor's azure dragon spear and black tortoise armor had disappeared, and the golden dragon swam out again and flew beside him. Li Fan's fox spirit possession also disappeared. He returned to his ordinary appearance, stood there, and ate 2 soul-restoring pills. Only Jiang Feng was a bit better, but the black divine weapon in his hand could no longer turn into a giant sword, so it was a bit less threatening. It seems that victory and defeat can't be decided in an instant. Martial Emperor relied on the golden dragon to protect his body, floating in the air, looking down at Li Fan and Jiang Feng. Li Fan, I guess your fate is not over. Your Majesty Martial Emperor, no need to sigh. Jiang Feng revealed a confident smile. It's almost time, it's my turn to show off. You still have a move. Li Fan felt a bit bad. Yeah, since you're ready to use nuclear weapons, I naturally have to do something as well. Jiang Feng chuckled and pointed his finger at the sky. A huge dragon poked its head out of the clouds, bringing with it a terrifying pressure. Dragon God number 1? Li Fan was a little surprised. The Dragon God number 1 had actually descended into the atmosphere. That's right. This is the Dragon God number 1's high-end military strike capability. Jiang Feng explained, Dragon God number 1 is equipped with a quantum strike system. However, it would take some time to apply for this system. During the battle just now, I kept on applying and finally activated the system, allowing Dragon God No. 1 to arrive above the Li family island. Li Fan's frown deepened. As long as the quantum strike lands, the entire Li family island will be obliterated. Of course, if I use this weapon, I will definitely be hunted down by China. However, if I use quantum strike after you, Li Fan, use nuclear weapons, then things will be different. Tactical grade weapons restraining each other. This is the most common practice of some large countries in the world. Everyone has this kind of tactical grade weapon, usually used as a means of threat, restraining each other. Interesting. The martial emperor raised his head to look at the super weapon. He did not expect Jiang Feng to actually have such a deep trick up his sleeve. Third brother, with this, your nuclear weapons are considered useless, right? Jiang Feng winked at Li Fan. Next, can we enter the regular battle? All right. Li Fan accepted his fate. I promise not to use nuclear weapons. That's more like it. Jiang Feng nodded in satisfaction. Then I will not use quantum strike on you. Your Majesty the Martial Emperor, with this, our army can attack. Exactly. The Martial Emperor was overjoyed. With this, his army will regain their combat ability. He used his celestial energy to wrap his voice and shouted, Li Fan's nuclear weapons have lost their effect. I hereby order all allied armies to immediately attack. Flatten the Li family island. Roar. The 100-man squad stationed nearby could not wait any longer. They were the first to charge, and the remaining 1,000+ elite soldiers of the various countries all moved as well, charging towards the castle. Li Fan's 7 hero sword guards and grand sword guards simultaneously moved and began to fight against these people. Although the Martial Emperor's army was a motley crew, there were a few British magicians amongst them. They used unique magic to strengthen the army's combat ability. Although the 7 hero sword guards were powerful, when faced with the attack of so many people, they actually found it rather taxing, and began to retreat bit by bit. Li Fan, although your sword guards are very elite, in the face of my army, they are still not enough. The Martial Emperor chuckled, standing on the high platform of the castle, staring at his attacking army, incomparably pleased with himself. Today shall be the day of your doom. Is that so? But I still have people watching over me. As soon as Li Fan's words came out, Guan Wenbao, Yang Kai, and the others all entered the fray. Like sharp daggers, they tore apart the allied armies. Subhuti stood guard in front of the castle alone, preventing the Martial Emperor's army from entering. Le Xiaohu and Jiang Yi wandered in the crowd. Their combat ability was also very strong, constantly destroying the enemies in front of them. Not far away from them, Chen Junhua was also waving his large sword, like a god of war, cutting the enemies in front of him into pieces. Leave it to me. Jiang Feng carried his divine weapon, leaped into the crowd, and began to suppress the experts under Li Fan's command. Li Fan was just about to go over to help, but the Martial Emperor controlled the Golden Dragon and blocked in front of him. Where are you going? I am your opponent. Scram. Hee. Use your strength to break through my defense. Li Fan's strength was almost depleted. The Martial Emperor was prepared to use his divine dragon to suppress him here, making Li Fan lose his last chance. By Lin Luo, send the celestial honorific. However, Li Fan's expression did not change. After all, he still had his last trump card. Yes. By Lin Luo's voice sounded in Li Fan's rice grain earphone. Then, from the direction of Li Family Island, there was a dull explosion, as if something had been launched. Then, a black and white painted mech suddenly descended from the sky, and with a bang, it landed behind Li Fan. The mecha's hatch opened, the cabin popped out, and Li Fan jumped in. You have fallen. The Martial Emperor was very disdainful. What can this kind of steel machine do? Don't speak too early. Li Fan had already used his spiritual power to take over the celestial honorific system. He operated the mecha's limbs, and regained control of this mechanical feeling. The celestial honorific had been modified, and at this time, a total of 18 nano-cores were operating at the same time, like cannonballs ready to be fired, waiting for Li Fan's orders. Chapter 1669. Using the Celestial Sovereign title, Li Fan immediately felt the energy in his body depleting rapidly. The Celestial Sovereign title amplified Li Fan's combat power by 10 times, but it also made him consume 10 times his physical strength. But Li Fan took out a heavenly essence pill and placed it in his mouth. A steady stream of energy was released from his dantian and entered Li Fan's body. This heavenly essence pill was Luo Xiaofeng's latest creation, which could greatly replenish one's internal energy. Normally, he only needed to place it in his mouth and he would be able to continuously absorb energy from the pill, which could last for about 10 minutes. This heavenly essence pill was extremely expensive to manufacture, and one pill's medicinal value was no less than 1 million. But to Li Fan, eating such a pill in exchange for his powerful combat power was very worth it. Who asked Luo Xiaofeng to be in his hands? Who asked this to be a team battle? Everyone knew that in the process of a team battle, taking pills was a must. Through the earpiece, Li Fan knew that the following battle was also going well. Under the command of Night Rain Tower, the 7 hero sword guards maintained very good combat power and mobility, regained control of the battle rhythm, and slowly pushed back the 1,000-man legion. But the opponent had too many people. If it was a battle of attrition, it would definitely be disadvantageous to Li Family Island. So what if you're wearing a pile of scrap metal? Watch how this emperor breaks you. As the martial emperor spoke, he controlled his 5-clawed golden dragon and soared into the sky, pouncing towards Li Fan. Li Fan controlled the mecha and directly jumped up, turned around and swung his leg, kicking the golden dragon's head, sending this 5-clawed golden dragon flying. This 5-clawed golden dragon wailed and flew back to the martial emperor's side in a sorry state, causing the martial emperor to widen his eyes in shock. What was going on? Why could Li Fan still unleash such strength? All of you lie down for me. Li Fan jumped high, swept past the martial emperor, and smashed into the 1,000-man legion. Jiang Feng saw Li Fan drive the mecha over, and was a little surprised. What was the martial emperor doing, to actually let Li Fan out? Without hesitation, he stopped his pursuit of Guan Wenbao and charged at Li Fan with his sword. Overturn the heavens and stir the seas. Li Fan, on the other hand, launched a profound dragon ice palm at Jiang Feng. Although Li Fan did not have the power of the cold element, his mecha's right hand was equipped with a powerful cold control system. A frost-attributed palm energy burst forth, charging straight in front of him. Almost 100 people were smashed into ice fragments by this palm, and Jiang Feng's body was also sent flying, smashing heavily on the ground in the distance. Jiang Feng still couldn't understand why Li Fan still had such powerful combat strength. What was that mecha of his used for? Roar. The martial emperor's 100-man team was like wolves and tigers. To be precise, they were indeed like wolves and tigers. They rushed towards Li Fan, as if they wanted to tear Li Fan to shred. Whoosh. Li Fan directly pulled out a 3-meter-long sword from his back, held it in his hand, and then swept it horizontally. Tornado remnant clouds. A sword energy spread out, instantly shredding more than 10 beast men. Following that, Li Fan brandished this huge sword, as if a god had descended from the sky, chopping the beast men in front of him into minced meat. The dragon subduing sword technique was performed to perfection. So many people, not a single one of them was a match for him. Wearing this mecha, Li Fan could display the strength of an exalted immortal. Who would he be afraid of in front of this motley crew? In 3 minutes, Li Fan had already killed more than half of the 100-man team, and the rest were nothing to be afraid of. The so-called 1,000-man coalition army was already retreating under Li Fan's terrifying strength. The martial emperor stood on the castle, watching this scene, his heart trembling. If not for the dignity of the martial emperor, he might have knelt here. Why did he fail just like that? My ambition, my empire, you have already lost. At some point, Jade was standing beside the martial monarch. You're right. We've underestimated Li Fan. The battle strength that Li Fan displayed this time made Jade's heart palpitate. A set of steel toys allowed him to display the strength of an exalted immortal. What if one day he made another set of toys and displayed the strength of an exalted immortal? The plan of Sky Beyond Heaven could not be aborted. Since that was the case, there was only one way left. Could it be? My fate is at its end. For the first time, the martial emperor felt despair. He had almost completely mastered the true immortal technique, but he was still one move behind and lost to Li Fan. As for the 100-man team that Sky Beyond Heaven had nurtured for him, they were quickly wiped out. We still have another way. Although Jade didn't really like the martial emperor, he was the only hope of Sky Beyond Heaven. What other plan do you have? The martial emperor didn't really trust anyone anymore, and he felt his confidence crumbling. The ambitious emperor of a generation was in a sorry state at this moment. Although Li Fan is strong, he is still a human. Jade said, "You, on the other hand, can follow me back to Sky Beyond Heaven and receive Sky Beyond Heaven's training to become a true expert." Go to Sky Beyond Heaven? When the Martial Emperor heard this, he subconsciously froze. Didn't you tell me before that the passage to Sky Beyond Heaven can only be passed by true immortals like you? If anyone else thought about it, they would be crushed by the passage and turned into pure energy. Indeed, that passage can only be passed by us. Even if you cultivated the true immortal technique, you still wouldn't be able to enter Sky Beyond Heaven. I told you before, even if you cultivate the true immortal technique and ascend, you will only become nourishment for my Sky Beyond Heaven. This was a vicious plan of Sky Beyond Heaven, and the Martial Emperor knew about it. However, Sky Beyond Heaven was afraid that their only representative would ascend and commit suicide, so they informed him in advance. However, we have another passage that will allow you to enter Sky Beyond Heaven smoothly. There's another one. Where is it? Follow me first. Jade pointed below, where Li Fan was leading the Seven Knights Villa's people, killing in all directions. They will definitely lose, so there's no need for us to stay here. All right. The Martial Emperor sorted out his emotions. Now that things have come to this, he can only enter Sky Beyond Heaven. Perhaps, this might be an opportunity. As long as he can enter Sky Beyond Heaven, he might be able to obtain the complete true immortal technique and cultivate to the power of a Sky Immortal. At that time, I will truly be undefeatable under the heavens. The Martial Emperor made up his mind and followed Jade out of Li Family Island. On the other side, Li Fan is killing thousands of people, causing the Allied army to throw away their helmets and armor, and blood is flowing like a river. Li Fan is too scary. We are not his match at all. Heavens, the Martial Emperor also ran away. Jiang Feng also slipped away. Quickly run. The remaining people finally started to break down and want to escape, but they found out that they have already been surrounded by the Li Family Island's army. The Martial Emperor and Jiang Feng have abandoned them and escaped long ago. Their only choice is to put down their weapons and raise their hands to surrender. Li Fan is very magnanimous. He tied these people up and began to judge them on the spot. Chapter 1670. When they came, it was a mighty army of 1,000 people, but in the blink of an eye, there were less than 200 people left, and all of them were injured. Niu Shuiyan was also lying among them, shivering and not daring to let out a fart. The remaining people that Li Fan knew were the people from the 6 sects. Wang Zhenyi from Qingcheng sect, Miao Chen from Kunlun sect, and Yu Ruoying from Imei sect. Wu Dang and Shaolin didn't send anyone, and Kongtong sect also didn't send anyone because they were busy changing their sect leader. 3 of the 6 sects came, which could be considered as giving face to Li Fan. Old friends, it's not the first time we've met. Li Fan looked at the 3 sect leaders who were tied up and laughed coldly. The few of you are not discouraged. For the true immortal art, you even chased me all the way to my Li Family Island. Villa Master Li, we were greedy. Seeing that we're all martial artists, please spare us. Wang Zhenyi's hands were tied behind him, and his hair was disheveled. He was in an extremely sorry state, and no longer looked like a sect leader. He opened his mouth and begged Li Fan for mercy. Li Fan, even if you kill me, there will be countless Imei disciples who will avenge me. Yu Ruoying still braced herself and didn't give Li Fan a good look. Anyway, I don't have long to live. If you want to kill me, then kill me. But if you want to humiliate me, no way. Sect leader Yu is of noble character and unquestionable integrity. You are our role model. Miao Chen just praised, and then changed the topic. However, we are all sect leaders, and have the heavy responsibility of building the sect. How can we lose our lives in vain? After saying that, he looked at Li Fan and said, Villa Master Li, we were just bewitched by Jiang Feng and Martial Emperor. Actually, we have some respect for Villa Master Li Ba. Miao Chen. You're really shameless. You don't have the demeanor of a grandmaster. Yu Ruoying shouted angrily, greedy for life and afraid of death, you lowly people. Fuck your mother. Wang Zhenyi couldn't help but yell, you're sick and dying. Are you trying to harm us? Yu Ruoying, if you want to die, die alone. Don't drag us down with you. Wang Zhenyi, you're a dog. Yu Ruoying retorted, "You don't deserve to be the Qingcheng sect leader. It's the entire sect's misfortune that Qingcheng has a sect leader like you. Sect leader you should also speak less. We are all martial artists, why do you have to be like this?" Miao Chen was still trying to persuade him. "Bah! Stop pretending to be a good person. Neither of you is a good person. Enough." Listening to them quarrel, Li Fan felt a headache coming on. "Who said I'm going to kill you? Stop blabbering." Li Fan berated, and the three of them were stunned. You won't kill us?" Yu Ruoying originally wanted to continue cursing, but when she heard Li Fan's words, she didn't know how to react. "This is your last chance," Li Fan said. "If they dare to come again, they will be killed without mercy." "Thank you, Villa Master Li. You are truly benevolent and righteous." That's right. We are too ashamed. In the future, we will definitely not come to your island to cause trouble. H, at least you know what's good for you." Although she is terminally ill, Yu Ruoying doesn't want to die now. If she was really not afraid of death, she wouldn't have desperately searched for this true immortal art. The true immortal art that you want is here. Li Fan took out the revised version of the true immortal art and threw it on the ground. "Because the one in my hand is not complete, I slightly revised the true immortal art. Take it back to practice, it should be helpful to you." Li Fan slightly modified the true immortal art, removed some of the cultivation mistakes, and then fused some of his own inner force to create a new true immortal art. Cultivating this true immortal art can raise one's strength to the stage of saint, which is the level of an immortal slave. Some of the experts in Li Fan's sect have already started cultivating. Are you really willing to give it to us?" Yu Ruoying is somewhat shocked and in disbelief. "Aren't you guys pestering me for this?" Li Fan said, "Although it is not complete, it can still let you practice to the stage of saint. This internal energy can improve your physique. In this way, your terminal illness should be alleviated." Really? Yu Ruoying is still somewhat in disbelief and thinks that this is Li Fan's trap. However, Li Fan is really kind. He had also given this true immortal art to the Holy Maiden and asked her to bring it back to the Devil sect. In order to balance China's martial arts world, Li Fan slightly revised it. He originally wanted to give it to the 6 major sects, but this time, he can give it to Yu Ruoying and the others in advance. Believe it or not, the boat is here, you guys can go. With a wave of his hand, Li Fan untied the ropes on the 3 of them and then pointed at the boat that they came on. The rest of the people, Li Fan let them all go back to the boat. After all, they are all China's martial artists, so Li Fan does not want to be too ruthless. After the boat sailed to the sea, Yu Ruoying and the others are studying the true immortal art that Li Fan revised in the cabin. Is this thing really effective? Miao Chen frowns as she looks at this kung fu. Will Li Fan really be so kind as to let us have it? It's hard to say. Li Fan, this person is cunning and sinister, we have to guard against him. Wang Zhini ponders for a moment. In my opinion, it is better to let sect leader you practice it first and see the effect. Why should I practice it first? Yu Ruoying's eyes stare, very dissatisfied. Anyway, you are going to die soon, just try it as a last resort. Wang Zhini's words almost make Yu Ruoying explode in anger. Wang Zhini, you are really not a good thing. Yu Ruoying originally wanted to teach Wang Zhini a lesson, but her power has not recovered and her body is injured. The moment she gets angry, she immediately coughs and her body hurts badly. Look at you, if you don't practice you might really die. Wang Zhini mocks, what are you afraid of, what if it is true? Besides, aren't you not afraid of death, sect leader you? Sect leader you, this poor Daoist also feels that this is your chance. Miao Chen also advises, this poor Daoist will protect you, if anything happens to you, this poor Daoist will definitely do his best to help. You two lowly people. You are jackals of the same lair as that Li Fan. I don't want to practice his lousy kung fu. This kind of thing is definitely harmful. Sigh, that's true, how could Li Fan be so kind? Who is willing to share the good stuff? Let's also stop arguing, maybe this is Li Fan's plan to sow discord between us. Wang Zhini seems to be a little disheartened, let's not fall into his trap. It is you who are gauging the heart of a gentleman with the heart of a lowly person. A cold voice rings out. The three of them are greatly shocked, turning their heads in unison, looking at the person beside them. Liu Zhu is wearing a black suit, unknowingly standing beside the three of them, looking at them with a smile that is not a smile. And behind him stand 5 experts wearing different colored clothes, each of them emitting a threatening aura. Chapter 1671. Who are you? Wang Zhenyi subconsciously pulls out his long saber and looks at the man in front of him with vigilance along with the other 2 sect leaders. You are actually speaking up for that thief Li Fan. It seems you are also from Seven Knights Villa. Before Yu Ruoying can finish her words, a man suddenly steps forward and pierces her throat with his palm, pulling out her throat bone and throwing it to the side. Yu Ruoying breathed her last, and the other 2 sect leaders were scared silly. Villa Master Li said that he won't kill us. Wang Zhenyi and Miao Chen hurriedly begs. My Villa Master is kind-hearted and indeed wants to let you go. Liu Zhu coldly snorts, unfortunately, I don't have this kind of kindness to raise you unscrupulous things. I'll fight you. Miao Chen knows that he can't convince him. He suddenly kicks Liu Zhu with all his might. Wang Zhenyi also pulls out his long saber and jumps up from the side and slashes towards Liu Zhu. The 5 shadows move again. 2 corpses lie on the ground. Liu Zhu expressionlessly waves his hand. Kill everyone on the ship, don't leave a single one alive. Then sink the ship into the sea and destroy the evidence. The 5 of them are the most loyal warriors. Without hesitation, they immediately turn around and leave the cabin. Not long after, waves of screams can be heard from the ship. When Liu Zhu walks out of the cabin, there is not a single living person on the ship. Even the boatmen who came to sail the ship are all killed. Liu Zhu brings the 5 shadows and jumps onto a small boat at the side and detonates the bomb on the boat. Looking at the flame engulfing the huge ship and then slowly sinking into the sea, Liu Zhu finally smiles. I will help you clean up the mess. On this side, after Li Fan solved the crisis on Li Family Island, he left the island and directly went to White Tiger Pagoda. Martial Emperor has already taken 2 holy towers in a row, he can't let him take the last one. According to White Tiger's reminder, Sky Beyond Skies should have a method to open a special passage to Sky Beyond Skies after opening the 4 holy towers. Martial Emperor lost this time, but he will definitely not accept consecutive defeat. Li Fan could already guess that he might also be eyeing the path to the realm beyond Avalon. No matter how the realm beyond heaven used him, if he went to the realm beyond heaven, it would definitely not be a good thing for him. After Li Fan returned to the underwater White Tiger Pagoda, he went straight to Hua's cell. This originally delicate and pretty female immortal was now hanging on the wall with a dazed expression. He didn't know what Chioa had done, but the flowers seemed to have changed. When she saw Li Fan come in, she immediately rubbed her legs and let out a low moan. Chioa! Li Fan shouted. Chioa was wearing the Empress leather clothes as she strolled over. Ah, Master, you're back. Chioa was holding a small leather whip in her hand. When she saw Li Fan, she immediately knelt down in front of him. Li Fan saw that Chioa had a fake male penis hanging from her waist. Damn, what is Chioa playing at? What did you do to her? Li Fan had a bad premonition. After Master left, Chioa used a little trick. It seems like the effect is quite good. This cute little fairy has already become very obedient. However, Chioa feels that she still needs to be taught a little more, so that Master can enjoy her. Damn, why would I enjoy her? Li Fan's forehead was full of cold sweat. I only want her to tell me the information. Sure. Master can have whatever you want. As she spoke, Chioa turned her head, stood up, and whipped the ground. Hurry up and tell Master everything you know. Little slut is willing to say anything. This originally high and mighty flower actually called herself a slut, causing Li Fan to be shocked. How did Chioa torment her, to actually make her become a completely different person? Alright, first tell me, why is the realm beyond heaven unwilling to descend to the ground while humans are still alive? Since she has been trained to this extent, she should tell me the secret. Because humans are viruses, bacteria, the nemesis of the realm beyond heaven. Flower's words made Li Fan shocked. What's the situation? The realm beyond heaven is so powerful, yet they are still afraid of humans. No, this virus, is love. Immediately after, Flower's words made Li Fan finally understand. In the past, the gods of the realm beyond heaven were a group of powerful races. There were many of us, countless of us, but when we came to Earth, many of us fell in love with humans. Our children have powerful energy. They rebelled against us and killed many experts of the realm beyond heaven, so, some of us had no choice but to exterminate those people, then escape to the realm beyond heaven, isolated from the human world, to avoid contact with humans. Hearing this, Li Fan's heart suddenly sank. My goodness, so this is the reason? The realm beyond heaven has its own set of broken rules, and everyone is quite rigid. After coming to Earth and seeing the rich and colorful life of humans, they were moved. You are worried that if you come to Earth again, there will be people who will lose control and fall in love with Earthlings, and then the remaining army can destroy you. There is a prophecy. Flower's whole body seemed to be itching. She looked at Li Fan in pain, and her eyes were dripping with tears. The people of the realm beyond heaven will give birth to a powerful descendant with an Earthling. He can destroy the realm beyond heaven, I see. Li Fan understood, and he suddenly remembered that there was another flaw in the true immortal technique. In the process of fixing it, he found this flaw. But if he did not practice it to the level of an inferior immortal, it would not show. That is, if a man practiced this technique, he would lose his sexual function. And if a woman practiced this technique, there would probably be some other price to pay. In comparison, although the current martial emperor said that he wanted to conquer his woman, he probably did not have this ability anymore. With the pride of the martial emperor, he definitely could not stand it. But he could only continue to walk on, constantly become stronger, and one day find a way to fix his flaw. The realm beyond heaven, indeed, made a ruthless move. The people of the realm beyond heaven naturally let the martial emperor, who had lost his ability, enter with ease. No wonder they want to destroy the human race. What a ridiculous reason. In his heart, Li Fan cursed 10,000 times. This was really bullshit. To us, this is the terrifying destruction of our race. So, for the sake of our race, the human race must be exterminated. At this moment, Flower seemed to have returned to normal, and she opened her mouth and said to Li Fan, "After all, humans are only the lowest race." Chapter 1672. What nonsense are you spouting? Chioa was furious. She whipped the flower. This damned little girl. Her words made him lose face in front of his master. Would master blame him for not teaching him properly or something? I'm spouting nonsense. The flower cried. When we first arrived, we had a population of 20 million. But now, we are left with less than 1 million. Most of them are ordinary celestials, and they have lost their ability to reproduce. Almost all of our elites have died. What a terrifying genocide. Even so, this is not a reason for you to destroy our race. Li Fan said coldly, "You are a foreign race. Can you destroy others for the sake of your own race's survival? Just because you don't want your race to go extinct, can you do it to others? We are of different races, so our standpoints are different." The flower seemed to be more and more clear-headed. When she talked about this issue, she temporarily regained her sanity. "All right, you're right. Since that's the case, I'll go and destroy your race first." As Li Fan spoke, he walked forward and reached out to pinch the flower's chin. "Tell me, how can I open the passage to the sanctum and head to the realm beyond heaven? You can just kill me." The flower used the last of her rationality to cry. "You're so annoying." Chioa was about to go crazy. Her method had actually failed. She had wanted to show off in front of her master, but it had ended up like this. "Master, let Chioa teach her a little more. She just needs a month." "No need. Immerse, come out." Under Li Fan's command, the nine-tailed divine fox obediently flew out of Li Fan's body. She transformed into a red fox and landed on his shoulder. Her red tail wrapped around Li Fan's neck like a scarf. Then, her yellow-red eyes stared intently at the flower's eyes. "Activate, The souls of the 4 sages. Then, use, our realm beyond heavens, pass, to enter and exit the tower, pass? Li Fan glanced at the 9-tailed divine fox. The 9-tailed divine fox immediately understood his intentions. She nodded and activated her spell. This is the pass. As the flower spoke, it opened its mouth and spat out a golden rune. The 9-tailed divine fox was ecstatic to see this, and he immediately sucked the symbol into his mouth. Darling, after using this rune, you can enter the sky beyond heaven. Alright, all that's left is the Vermilion Bird Tower. Li Fan waved his hand. Let's go, let's attack the Vermilion Bird Tower. He had already brought the dragon lady back, and they could set off immediately. If it's the Vermilion Bird Tower, you have to be careful. Ms. White Tiger flew out again and floated beside Li Fan. She looked at him and blushed slightly. Is there anything terrifying about the Vermilion Bird Pagoda? Mysterious? I can't say. It's just that the Vermilion Bird used to have some strange hobbies. What do you mean? That. Among the 4 sages, Big Brother Black Tortoise is mature and steady while Little Brother Azure Dragon is aloof and cold. As for me, I'm gentle like water, witty beyond compare. Why are you rolling your eyes? As for the Vermilion Bird, that girl was as passionate as fire, and she loved to pursue the beautiful love of the human world. Therefore, the mechanisms in her pagoda were more unique. When you get there, you'll naturally understand. Explain it clearly, don't be like the last time. After entering, I became an idiot and didn't understand the situation at all. Li Fan muttered in his heart. If it wasn't for the fact that he was more witty than others and went to find the past Lin Yuhin to help him solve the problem, he was afraid that he would really be dead. Don't worry, this time, Zongqing and I will follow you, White Tiger explained. White Tiger explained, last time, the Azure Dragon Pagoda was a little special, because it sent you back to the past. At that time, one of us was under the Cold Pond Pagoda, and the other was on the island, so we were definitely unable to help you. However, the Vermilion Bird Pagoda doesn't have this ability. Although it can eliminate your power, it can't eliminate me and the 9-tailed divine fox. Why? Don't you guys belong to my power? The 2 of us are independent entities to begin with. White Tiger continued to explain, we're just relying on your existence. Therefore, we will enter the Vermilion Bird Pagoda with you and cooperate with you. Li Fan roughly understood. Alright, I understand. It's best if I can help. I'll go inform Dragon Girl, we'll set off immediately. The Martial Emperor should have also started his operation, so he didn't have time to waste. Li Fan picked up Dragon Girl who was eating snacks and watching anime. Ignoring her protests, he used the 9 heavens roaming dragon Qinggong and headed to the next Vermilion Bird Pagoda. The 4 holy pagodas were also set up according to 4 directions. The Vermilion Bird was a southern bird, so this Vermilion Bird Pagoda was located on the southernmost island of Huaxia. It was hidden in the mirage and would only open during the hottest season. Although it was already past the height of summer, the matter was urgent, so he could only forcefully open it. Li Fan arrived at the end of the world. The Vermilion Bird Pagoda was just 2 kilometers south of here. He jumped down from the shore, stepped on the sea, and continued to run. Fortunately, it was night time, so no one noticed this mysterious Huaxia man. Otherwise, Li Fan would probably be on the hot search on Weibo the next day. He followed Dragon Girl's guidance and came to the sea. Here, he only saw a stone pedestal floating on the surface of the sea. In the vast sea, if one didn't know the location, who would see a small stone pedestal here? Immerse, come out. It's time for you to shine again, Li Fan urged. The 9-tailed divine fox flew out again and entered Li Fan's body, becoming a part of his power. Blazing palm, Li Fan struck out with his palm, and the surrounding temperature rose by a lot. Li Fan's palm was like a small sun, releasing a terrifying heat from his palm, filling the sea. Soon, the air in front of him began to distort, and a towering red pagoda gradually appeared from the void, appearing in front of Li Fan. There were a few pieces of rubble in front of the pagoda. Li Fan frowned. Looks like the Martial Emperor arrived one step earlier. The Vermilion Bird Pagoda is not that easy to conquer. White Tiger comforted Li Fan, "We can still make it if we go now. As long as we get there before the martial emperor, there will be no problem." Okay. He had even conquered the Azure Dragon Pagoda, let alone the Vermilion Bird Pagoda. Regardless of whether it was a god or a ghost, he had to take it down. "Dragon Lady, wait here for me. If the martial emperor comes out first, don't say anything, just turn around and run. If I come out first, yes, I'll treat you to a feast. Don't worry, my escaping skills are the best in the world." Chapter 1673. Vermilion Bird Pagoda, the last of the Four Saint Pagoda. Li Fan and the martial emperor were both fighting for the ownership of this pagoda. Even if Li Fan gave the vermilion bird to the martial emperor, he could still enter the sky beyond heaven through the runes. However, each of the four saints had powerful combat power, which could be seen from Miss White Tiger. Furthermore, with the four saints by his side, their rich knowledge and experience would be of great help to him. No matter what, he had to get his hands on the vermilion bird. Li Fan entered the Vermilion Bird Pagoda. This Vermilion Bird Pagoda was indeed extraordinary. After entering, he realized that the interior was decorated like an ancient wedding hall. Red wedding couplets were hung everywhere, and the atmosphere was fiery and joyous. In this hall, there was also a large group of clay figurines. These clay figurines imitated the guests, the bride and groom who were bowing to heaven and earth, and the parents of both sides. They were truly lifelike and lifelike. Looking at the scene here, it seemed to be the era of the Republic of China. However, this family should be a wealthy family, and they seemed to have some power, because there were a few soldiers with guns standing guard for them. Another challenger. A mechanical voice sounded above Li Fan's head, "You have a month's time. As long as you can woo the bride who is about to get married, you can see me through the Vermilion Bird Pagoda. Good luck." After saying that, the scene in front of Li Fan suddenly changed. It was as if he had entered the sea. A chill wrapped around him, and he even had a feeling of suffocation. When this feeling dissipated, Li Fan had already arrived in a brand new world. The surroundings were bustling with noise, and the surrounding people were congratulating the bride and groom. It looked like a scene of joy. Miss White Tiger's voice sounded in Li Fan's ears. This should be the scene set up by the Vermilion Bird. According to her requirements, you will win if you can woo the bride within a month. Fuck, what kind of fucking mission is this? Li Fan was extremely speechless. Stealing someone else's woman, this was a bit fucking. Li Fan glanced at the bride and groom who were bustling with excitement. The groom looked quite decent with thick eyebrows and big eyes. As for the bride, she was wearing a red veil, so it was hard to tell what she looked like. But looking at her figure wrapped in a red cheongsam, she looked very enchanting and sexy. Li Fan muttered to himself, a woman married by such a rich and powerful family shouldn't be too bad looking. Most importantly, he didn't even know her. How was he supposed to woo her within a month? I really envy young Master Wang for marrying such a beautiful woman. What's there to be envious of? Haven't you heard that Miss Yang is the top hostess of Shuyue Brothel? That's why I'm envious. What kind of place is Shuyue Brothel? Only famous scholars can go there. Do you think it's the Smoky Willow Alley you usually go to? But I heard that Miss Yang is a little strange. Some people say that she's the reincarnation of a jinx. Go away, don't talk nonsense. Today is young Master Wang's big day. If he hears what you said, you're finished. That person didn't dare to make a sound and kept quiet. It seems like there's a plot to this mission. Li Fan looked at his own attire. He looked like a standard student of the Republic of China. He was wearing a black student uniform, but he didn't know which school he was pretending to be. Miss Yang, Li Fan muttered this name in his heart. From the information he just received, this Miss Yang should be a prostitute. However, many people misunderstood the concept of a brothel. A brothel was different from a brothel. The beauties in a brothel were all talented women who were proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. The customers were also the descendants of famous families. In ancient times, because of the Cheng and Zhou school of Confucianism, The descendants of the aristocratic families were usually engaged from a young age. They could only see their wives on the day of their marriage. Even if they were ugly, they couldn't divorce their wives easily. Therefore, the descendants of the aristocratic families didn't have love. They longed for love and needed it. Therefore, the brothel was born. The prostitutes in the brothel were trained from a young age and all of them were talented women. It wasn't easy for the descendants of the aristocratic families to enter the brothel. If they didn't have any talent, they wouldn't even have the right to see the girls. The talented women in the brothel were also very special. They didn't give the descendants of the aristocratic families sex, but the feeling of true love. In fact, this kind of place also existed in modern times. In the past, those places like Tavern Heaven on Earth that were exposed in the news were this kind of place. However, Tavern Heaven on Earth didn't want any talent. What they wanted was pure money. Li Fan also checked the state of his body. His physical fitness was a bit stronger than ordinary people, but he didn't have any internal force. Obviously, this small world had reduced his ability. Vermilion Bird was Vermilion Bird after all. It wouldn't let him complete the task too easily. Husband and wife bow to each other. The officiator was busy presiding over the wedding. When the couple was about to bow to each other, Li Fan heard someone shouting from the side. Wait! Li Fan turned his head and saw a group of armed soldiers rushing into the wedding hall and surrounded the entire hall. These soldiers were obviously the warlords of other factions. The military uniform they wore was beige. The leader was an officer who walked with a majestic aura that made people unable to look at him directly. Seeing him, Li Fan subconsciously took 2 steps back and shrank into the crowd. Fuck you, isn't this a martial emperor? How did he become an officer? Everyone was here to snatch girls, but this guy is too much. How can he act as an officer? I am a poor student. Isn't the difference in status a bit too big? Fuck your role-playing. Young master, be careful. A guard stood in front of Li Fan, which made Li Fan a bit surprised. Isn't this the Wang family's soldier? Why are they here to protect me? The rest of the soldiers protected young Master Wang and his wife. Young Master Wang directly looked at the martial emperor who was acting as an officer and directly questioned. General Liu, what do you mean by this? From the looks of it, it doesn't seem like you are here to congratulate me. How is it not to congratulate you? I have even sent you a gift. The martial emperor laughed and waved his hand. An adjutant behind him walked over and threw a sack on the ground. Young Master Wang ordered someone to open the sack. There was a corpse lying inside. It was a woman. Qian? Young Master Wang's expression changed. How is it? I knew that you were going to marry, so I helped you kill your first wife. This way, you can live together with Miss Yang. Isn't that blissful? You are going too far. Young Master Wang wanted to flare up, but he didn't dare to flare up in front of 100 armed soldiers. So what if I am bullying you? I have taken a fancy to Miss Yang for a long time. How can a gigolo like you snatch her away from me? To tell you the truth, I did not plan to leave empty-handed today. Chapter 1674. Li Fan was speechless. He seemed to be playing the role of the young master of the Wang family, while the martial emperor was playing the role of a great warlord. This guy was actually barging in and trying to snatch Miss Yang away. In this place, the strength of the martial emperor should have been weakened, but he was a warlord, and he was holding a horsebrand pistol in his hand, which was a Browning pistol. The martial emperor directly held the horsebrand pistol and aimed it at young Master Wang's head. You're just a minister of education. Do you think I don't dare to touch you? The martial emperor was very pleased with himself. In this place, whoever had military power was the boss. The martial emperor was very lucky. He had played the role of an adjutant of a warlord. Through his own methods, the martial emperor had directly killed his own master and quickly taken over the military power of the previous marshal. He had taken control of the 20,000 troops under his command. With these 20,000 people, the martial emperor had absolute strength in this era of warlords. With this kind of strength, wouldn't it be easy for him to snatch a woman away? The martial emperor was lucky. Firstly, his identity was good, and secondly, he had entered this world more than 10 days earlier than Li Fan. He had his own troops, leaving young Master Wang at his wits' end. Li Fan also frowned. The situation was too disadvantageous to him. If Miss Yang was snatched away by the martial emperor, he didn't know if his strategy would fail. Since the two of them were in the same small world, it meant that he and the martial emperor were going to complete the same mission. However, Miss Yang could only attack once. Out of the two of them, only one could complete it. He began to quickly think of a way. If he did not deal with it, things would really become very bad. Big Sister White Tiger, is there any way? I can lend you my strength. Although it's not particularly strong, it can still be considered a form of combat strength. Big Sister White Tiger's voice sounded in Li Fan's mind, but this way, your identity might also be exposed. A person with special abilities, I think, will be incompatible with this era, and Miss Yang might also be afraid of you, right? Hearing this, Li Fan fell silent. There were too many restrictions, but this was also the rule of the game. Bringing the White Tiger and the Divine Fox in was already a form of cheating. If he cheated too much, he might be rejected by the system or even corrected. Who dares to be so presumptuous in Minister Wang's house? Just as Li Fan's brain was about to explode, a loud shout came from outside. Following that, another group of soldiers filed in. These people were obviously from the same faction. Their military uniforms were all grey, and the leader was a genteel officer. He even wore a pair of glasses, but his eyes gave off a fierce feeling. Brigade Commander Chen. Save me. Young Master Wang seemed to have seen his savior and hurriedly asked him for help. General Liu, what are you doing? Brigade Commander Chen asked coldly. The martial emperor couldn't help but curse. Although this Brigade Commander Chen was just a small brigade commander, behind him was a powerful warlord with 200,000 soldiers. He was only a small warlord at the moment, and there was no way he could compete with the other party. Young Master Wang is getting married. I'm here to send a congratulatory gift. This gift of yours is a little bloody. This is called putting on a red ribbon. If young Master Wang doesn't like it, I can just take it back. The martial emperor waved his hand. Take it back and bring me 10 little goldfish. The martial emperor exchanged 10 gold bars for them and gave them to the Wang family as a form of apology. Although his wife was killed, young Master Wang had no way to pursue her. In a chaotic war between warlords, the laws were chaotic, and the fist was the law. And Brigade Commander Chen couldn't directly challenge the martial emperor. After all, he was just a brigade commander. It was not easy for him to stand up for the Wang family. I'll give Brigade Commander Chen some face today and withdraw my troops. Before the martial emperor left, he said, however, Miss Yang, I'm afraid you won't have a good life with this young Master Wang. Why don't you consider me? I'll let you eat and drink, wear gold and silver, and guarantee you a life like a queen. It's the Republic of China now. There's no queen for a long time. Brigade Commander Chen pushed up his glasses and said, General Liu, what you're saying is a little perverse. Life is very chaotic now. Today, General Yuan is the emperor. Tomorrow, Whip Lord is restored. Who knows what will happen? The martial emperor snorted. All right, I'm leaving. Think about it yourselves. The martial emperor left a few threatening words, turned around, and left with his soldiers. Li Fan heaved a sigh of relief, but he cursed in his heart. The martial emperor, that son of a bitch, actually played this game. He wanted to force Miss Yang to take the initiative to join him. Since I'm here, he can forget about succeeding. Brigade Commander Chen, thank you very much for today. Young Master Wang cupped his hands at Brigade Commander Chen, sincerely grateful. What kind of relationship do we have? We're classmates and good friends. Brigade Commander Chen patted young Master Wang's shoulder. You were frightened today. It's your brother's fault for not protecting you well. How can I blame you? Who knew that General Liu would be so ruthless? Young Master Wang was very sad. My wife's body is still in his hands. I'm afraid it'll cost me a lot to redeem it. Marshal Liu is ruthless. We have to be on guard against him. Brigade Commander Chen glanced at Miss Yang, who was wearing a red veil, and did not continue. "Looks like I won't be able to attend your wedding today." "That's right. With such a big incident happening at home, we can't hold the banquet anymore. Waning, I'll have to trouble you to stay at home for a few days. When everything calms down, we'll hold this wedding again." Miss Young nodded, seemingly unable to walk due to fear. Finally, she returned to her room with the help of the two maids. Shouting, "Help me coax her. I'll settle the matter here." Young Master Wang turned his head and said to Li Fan. Li Fan was dumbfounded. Fuck, what did he mean? As an elder brother, he wanted him to coax his fiancée? Was that a good idea? But he could not let go of the opportunity in front of him. Li Fan nodded without hesitation and turned to follow the two maids. Just as he left, he heard Brigade Commander Chen's voice behind him. "Brother, you have to be careful. This Miss Yang might really be a little evil." Li Fan curled his lips. Feudal superstition. Since ancient times, emperors, generals, and ministers had always been like this. They took all the good things for themselves and pushed all the bad things to women. Once the country was destroyed, there would always be a woman to take the blame. Who did Miss Yang provoke this time? It was all because of the martial emperor's own stupid dick. Li Fan walked along the corridor, passed through 2 courtyards, and arrived at the side room where Miss Yang was staying. "Young master." The two maids at the door bowed to Li Fan. "You may leave. I have a few words with my sister-in-law." Li Fan waved his hand and used his authority to dismiss the two maids. He, beautiful sister-in-law, your brother-in-law is here to visit." Chapter 1675. Before Li Fan entered the house, he smelled a burst of fragrance. This Miss Yang seems to be very particular. Is the house that she lives in incense? Li Fan pushed the door and walked in. He saw Miss Yang sitting there, wearing a red dress and a veil. Her exquisite figure sitting on the bed is somewhat pitiful. Wan. Waning, are you sad? Li Fan tried hard to remember. That seemed to be her name. "You don't even want to call me sister-in-law?" The woman faintly asks. "Is it that you all don't want me to marry into the Wang family?" No. Li Fan mutters, "Of course I do. But not to marry my cheap brother, but to marry me, this romantic and elegant transmigration handsome guy. I know you all think I'm a jinx." Young Waning seems to be very sad. She puts her hands on her knees, feeling extremely sad. "But I really like your brother, he is talented and romantic. To be able to meet him is my honor in this life." "Don't say that. To be able to marry you is my brother's honor in 3 lifetimes. Li Fan says good words to coax Miss Yang. Miss Yang is famous all over the world. How many men in this world don't want to marry you? I'm afraid none of the men in this world are really willing to marry me." Yang Waning smiles bitterly. "They only love my beauty. How many of them are really moved by me? Especially since I carry the title of Jinx, I'm afraid these men are even more afraid to avoid me." "How can you say that?" Li Fan pats his chest. "What about me? Am I not a man? Did I avoid you? You are also very good. What you learned is new and very useful." Yang Waning praises, "Your Wang family gave birth to 2 good sons. If I can also give birth to a son like you, that would be great. Do you want me to be your son?" Li Fan does not know whether to laugh or cry. "No. Where did you hear that?" Yang Waning hurriedly explains, "I'm just purely envious of you. If only I could have been born in a family like yours." "Don't be sad. What those people like to say is their business. In any case, I've never thought of you as some kind of bullshit jinx. You are an intelligent and gentle woman. I admire your charm." "Really?" Yang Waning seemed a little touched. "Yeah. Don't be sad. Take off the veil first." As he spoke, Li Fan reached out and took off Yang Waning's veil. No matter what, he had to first imagine the feeling of being a groom. "Ah, don't." Before Yang Waning could stop him, Li Fan had already taken off her veil. A peerless beauty appeared in front of Li Fan, causing Li Fan to hold his breath for 2 seconds. "My goodness, this woman is a little beautiful. You are too rash." Yang Weining wrinkled her pretty little nose and looked at Li Fan with dissatisfaction. It's the husband who removes the veil. It's all the old rules. Moreover, this is not a formal occasion. Yang Weining's expression calmed down a little when she heard this. Forget it, it's my bad luck. No, I swear, I will make you happy, Weining. Hearing this, Yang Weining burst out in laughter. You silly boy, what nonsense are you talking about? Yang Weining said with a smile, you're not my husband. How can you make me happy? As long as your brother is good to me, it's fine. Li Fan secretly thought, this woman's heart is so concerned about her cheap brother. Should I kill him? For a moment, Li Fan's heart was suffused with thick killing intent. But it was only for a moment. He immediately put away this thought. If he did this, what difference would there be between him and a martial emperor? If he sacrificed a woman in order to save mankind, Li Fan could not do such a sanctimonious thing. Even if he managed to catch her, he should not use this kind of underhanded method. What's wrong with you? It's nothing, Weining. You've been tossing and turning all day and haven't eaten anything. I'll go get you some food. Li Fan was about to go out when he heard Yang Weining say, Shaoqing, you seem to be different today. Ah, what's different? Li Fan felt a little guilty. Could it be that I've been seen through? You seem to be a little gentle today. Yang Weining said with a smile, in the past, although you were also talented, you were always a little radical. After saying that, Yang Weining couldn't help but cover her mouth. I'm sorry. I said something wrong. It's okay. You're right. I may have been a little radical before, but I won't be in the future. Li Fan said, who knows what kind of loser I used to be. Maybe I was a student activist. In short, today's main purpose is to make you, the bride, happy. Li Fan said and went out the door. When he came back, he was holding some snacks in his hand. However, he saw his cheapskate brother standing at the door, looking at Yang Weining inside and talking to her. Weining, I'm sorry today. It's not your fault. It's my fault for bringing disaster to your family. Yang Weining's voice was slightly low, as if she was in a bad mood again. Don't say that. This is not your problem. Young Master Wang also coaxed his fiancée. Today's matter happened a bit too suddenly, and the old man was also a bit angry. He decided to let you stay in the Wang family's courtyard for a few days, and when the wedding is ready, he will let you stay back. Yang Weining's face suddenly lost color as she looked at her sweetheart in a daze. You want to chase me away? I'm not chasing you away, I just want you to change places to stay for 2 days. You see, we're not married yet. If I let you stay here now, I'm afraid that people outside will gossip. Yes, you have a good reputation, and you're afraid of gossip. I understand. Yang Weining nodded, her eyes listless. Forget about the courtyard. Living there will also affect your Wang family's reputation. I'll go back to Shuyue brothel. Look at what you're saying, how can I let you go to Shuyue brothel? I love you very much, and I'm doing this for your own good. You have to understand me. As young Master Wang spoke, Li Fan walked up and grabbed his brother's collar. Shaoqing, what are you doing? Shaoqing? The fiancé was stunned. They did not expect that Li Fan would come out and interfere. To think that you're the Minister of Education. Li Fan stared at his cheapskate brother and scolded, foolish, ignorant. Miss Yang likes you so much, but you treat her like this. Do you have any respect for her? If not, how can you talk about loving her? Li Fan's words made young Master Wang speechless for a while, but Yang Weining's body trembled slightly. Shaoqing, you don't understand. You're still young. Young Master Wang pushed Li Fan away, adjusted his tie, and said to Yang Weining, that's it, you have to understand me. Chapter 1676. Let's stay in the courtyard for 2 days. Although we haven't finished the wedding ceremony, you can be considered as my wife. Young Master Wang said to Miss Yang, since you're a wife, you must listen to your husband. All right, I'll listen to you. Miss Yang seemed to have given up. She bitterly smiled and prepared to pack her luggage. It might not be safe at home these 2 days. Young Master Wang said to Li Fan, you should also stay in the courtyard. Marshal Liu doesn't know where it is, so you won't be in danger. Since it's so dangerous, why don't you live with us? Miss Yang was suddenly touched. Is he worried about my safety? That's why he wants me to live there? I'm the Minister of Education, a government official. He won't dare to do anything to me. Then you must be careful. If you're in danger, I don't want to live anymore. Miss Yang's words moved young Master Wang. Don't worry, I'll be fine. As long as you and Xiaoqing are safe, I'll be satisfied. No matter what, young Master Wang's words made Li Fan feel a little touched. His cheap brother seems to be quite good to him. Let's go, I'll let Zhao Sheng protect you. The young officer who had been protecting Li Fan walked out and saluted him. Second young master, Madam. Hurry up and go. Leave the rest to me. Young Master Wang arranged for the two of them to leave the Wang mansion. The two of them sat in a small car and walked towards the courtyard. Xiaoqing. Do you think I've caused trouble for young master? Yang Weining was sitting beside him. She had already changed into a black dress. Her pair of jade legs attracted a few more glances. She was looking out the window when she suddenly asked Li Fan. Young Master was Li Fan's cheap brother, young Master Wang. How could that be? There are warlords now and the world is very chaotic. Li Fan felt that this comrade Yang Weining might have a heart of glass, so he hurriedly comforted her. There are a lot of people who hate my brother. Even without you, I think those so-called Marshal Liu or Marshal Ma would also find an opportunity to attack my brother. I don't want to be a burden to him, or should I go through thick and thin with him? Yang Weining suddenly understood something. She hurriedly said, how can I leave his side at such an important moment? Zhao Sheng, send me back. I want to accompany him. Li Fan understood Yang Weining very well. In this era, their love was very pure. Yang Weining believed that since she loved Wang Xiaofu, she had to live and die with him. However, Li Fan stopped Yang Weining and persuaded her. You won't be able to help even if you go back. My brother wants you to be safe so he doesn't have to worry about you. When Yang Weining heard Li Fan's words, she calmed down a little. Sigh, speaking of which, I'm still like a burden. No, I won't. You can stay here peacefully. When things have calmed down, we'll go back. All right, that's the only way. Yang Weining didn't have any ideas. She could only listen to Li Fan's arrangements. The car drove all the way back to the courtyard, but Yang Weining was still worried. Just as the car drove out of the Wang family's territory, a few gunmen dressed in black suddenly rushed out. One of them directly shot the car's tires. Zhao Sheng was shocked. He quickly jumped out of the car, opened the door and shot at the gunman. Second young master, Madam, quickly hide. Damn it. Li Fan pressed Yang Weining under his body. He knew in his heart that this was definitely a gunman sent by the martial emperor to snatch Yang Weining back. This brainless martial emperor had gone too far. With a gun, could he do anything he wanted? Zhao Sheng had already knocked down 2 gunmen, but he was only one person. There were more than 10 people in front of him, and they were closing in on him. If he wasn't worried about killing Yang Weining, Zhao Sheng and the others would have been killed long ago. Zhao Sheng, give me a pistol. Li Fan shouted at Zhao Sheng. Second young master, quickly take your wife and leave. I'll help you stall them. Zhao Sheng was loyal and devoted. He shouted at them without turning his head. It doesn't matter. Give me a gun. Otherwise, no one will be able to escape. Li Fan insisted. Zhao Sheng had no choice but to pull out a shell gun from his waist and throw it to Li Fan. This thing was also known as a box cannon in China. Even during the War of Resistance, many people used this kind of weapon. Li Fan held the shell gun and began to circulate the white tiger's power, strengthening Li Fan's physique. His eyes could even see the traces of the bullets coming and going. Hide well. Li Fan pressed Yang Weining down on the car and jumped out. He hid behind the car door and began to fight back. He shot one gunman between the eyebrows, then another gunman's eye. Li Fan was like a sharpshooter. Every shot killed an opposing gunman without the slightest mistake. Damn it. They have a sharpshooter. Kill him. But there are only 6 of us left. We don't dare to show our faces. The remaining gunmen all hid. As long as they show their faces, they will be killed by the other party. They had a total of 15 brothers, and now there were only 6 left. Second young master, your marksmanship is too powerful. Even Zhao Sheng was impressed by Li Fan's marksmanship. Second young master alone was enough to make the other party unable to raise their head. Continue. Li Fan said as he got up and walked in the direction of the gunman. Those gunmen were anxious. If Dong Xuebing got closer, wouldn't they be dead? One of the gunmen couldn't help but raise his head. In the end, the moment he revealed his head was shot by Li Fan. I'll count to 3. Everyone, come out. The leader of the gunmen knew this wouldn't do. He took the lead to count to 3. After counting to 3, the remaining 5 people raised their heads and aimed at Li Fan. However, Li Fan was holding the corpse of a gunman in his hand. The gunman randomly fired a few shots and hit the corpse. Li Fan fired 3 shots in a row. 3 gunmen fell to the ground and died. It was a clean and neat kill. The remaining 2 gunmen had already collapsed. The guy in front of them was too abnormal. They were not his match at all. The marshal had sent them to snatch the woman, but how could it be a happy mission like snatching a woman? It was clearly a suicide mission. Bang, bang. Li Fan finished firing the last 2 bullets. The 2 gunmen who escaped fell to the ground and died. Li Fan had no way to leave them alive. If he let them go back alive, the martial emperor would be able to guess that it was him who did it even if he used his toes. Second young master, you're too amazing. Zhao Sheng put away his pistol and walked to Li Fan's side. His face was full of excitement. I didn't know your marksmanship was so godly. I learned it from a friend. No need to make a fuss. Li Fan waved his hand and walked to the car. He saw Yang Weining lying on the car, shivering. Chapter 1677. Second young master, the tires are all broken, we can't leave. Zhao Sheng glanced at the car, it was basically scrapped. The tires were broken, the door was also full of bullet holes, it was as miserable as one could imagine. It's okay. Li Fan looked at the shivering Yang Weining, it was obvious that this girl was frightened by the gunfight. He directly reached out and carried Yang Weining in his arms, then ordered Zhao Sheng, bring us to the courtyard. Where the courtyard was, Li Fan did not know. At this moment, Zhao Sheng had become his only hope. He could act as the second young master of the Wang family, he must make good use of this identity. From a certain point of view, Li Fan felt that his identity was much more convenient than that Liu Dashui. Yang Weining tightly leaned into Li Fan's arms, she trusted Li Fan very much, allowing him to hug her. This Miss Yang's figure was not bad, her weight was very light, her body felt soft, not heavy at all. This kind of beauty, Li Fan could hug 10 more. But not too far away, there was a rickshaw in front of them. In this public place, Li Fan kept hugging Miss Yang, she would probably have some resistance in her heart. It was good to do things moderately, if it was more than this, it would have the opposite effect. Second young master, we've arrived at the courtyard. Soon, they arrived in front of a small bungalow in the south of the city. This place belonged to the British concession, ordinary warlords did not dare to mess around, so it was relatively safe. The small bungalow was not very big, it had its own courtyard, a total of 2 floors, it looked very unique. There were also flowers in the courtyard, it was unknown who planted them. Big Madam used to live here. After Li Fan asked around, Zhao Sheng answered him, today is Big Young Master's big day. Big Madam was not in a good mood, so she went to the temple to burn incense and pray. In the end, sigh, so this is where sister-in-law used to live. Li Fan carried Yang Weining, who was still in shock, and carried her directly into the small bungalow. The furniture in the house was relatively simple, it could be seen that the Big Madam was a woman who did not like to show off. The environment here is not bad. Miss Yang, you should rest here. Li Fan carried Yang Weining into the bedroom upstairs and gently placed her on the bed. When he was about to leave, Yang Weining suddenly grabbed his hand. Shouting, don't go yet, what happened? Li Fan stopped and looked at Yang Weining. Don't go. I'm scared. Yang Weining was almost kidnapped today, and then she saw a gunfight. She saw so much blood and dead people. She was usually gentle and elegant, but now she couldn't stand it anymore. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Li Fan sat by Yang Weining's bed. I'll watch you fall asleep. Why are you so nice? Yang Weining felt warm inside. You're so good to me. If only your brother was half as good as you are. Does my brother not treat you well? It's not that he's not good. It's just that in his heart, it's more about the country and the world. Yang Weining sighed softly. Although this is what I admire about him. But if he could remember me a little more, that would be better. My brother is more ambitious. He's different from an idle person like me. No, don't say that. Yang Weining pulled Li Fan's hand and hurriedly said, You're also very outstanding, it's just that your character is not the same as your brother. I'm definitely not as good as my brother. Li Fan sighed deeply. Otherwise, why would you choose my brother and not me? You. How can you talk nonsense? Yang Weining's face immediately turned red. If you make this kind of joke again, I'll scold you. It's my fault for making a joke. Li Fan stopped and immediately looked at Yang Weining tenderly. You can sleep for a while. You'll feel better when you wake up. I don't dare to sleep. Yang Weining became nervous again. When I close my eyes, I can see those dead people. They're all staring at me. As if they want to eat me. Don't be afraid. I'm not doing that. Li Fan comforted her. No matter how terrible those people are, I still killed them. As long as I'm here with you, they won't dare to come. Millimeter. Thinking of Li Fan's heroic appearance, Yang Weining nodded her head, but then said, I thought your Wang family only produces scholars. I didn't expect there's a young hero like you. I'm not a young hero. I'm just a student who learned some spear art from a friend. Li Fan smiled and said, I don't seek to serve my country. As long as I can protect you, that's enough. Why do you have such little ambition? Yang Weining stretched out her hand and gently touched Li Fan's nose. With your ability, you should do something earth-shattering. Women like men who do big things. Since ancient times, the rule of the country is to rule the world. If you can't even protect your own family, how can you do big things? Li Fan's words made Yang Weining a bit surprised. This youth in front of her was different from the people she had seen before. In the Republic of China, these talented and capable people either seek wealth or fame. There would always be one that they wanted. But this youth in front of her seemed to have no desire. Women like ambitious men. Just like Yang Weining, she was obsessed with Wang Xiaofu's feelings of serving the country and the people. But this Wang Xiaoqing in front of her had another kind of charm that made women unable to help but be obsessed with him. Li Fan chatted with Yang Weining for a long time. From astronomy to geography, they talked about life and philosophy. Li Fan's way of talking and view of the world surprised Yang Weining. This person's way of thinking, it's hard to say if it's advanced or terrifying. But it's indeed incompatible with this era. Okay, it's time for dinner. I'll go prepare dinner. You rest first. You can cook. Yang Weining was a bit surprised. Why not? A man can actually enter the kitchen. Yang Weining felt a bit unbelievable. It's very normal. Moreover, the food you cook is also delicious. Li Fan said and was about to go out. Yang Weining didn't want to stay in the room alone. She directly sat up. Let me do it. You've learned the 4 arts, how would you know how to cook? Li Fan smiled. Talented girls in the brothel can recite poems, but cooking? Forget it. Then I'll go with you to take a look. Yang Weining was very curious. Without any explanation, she followed Li Fan to the kitchen. Do you like meat or something lighter? Something lighter. Chapter 1678. Li Fan made crab roe soup with some side dishes. He had Chiu, the chef, by his side. In order to make it convenient for him to eat something similar when he was outside, he learned from Chiu. Yang Weining almost swallowed her own tongue when she ate the crab roe soup that he made. This skill. Even the head chef of Shuya brothel might not be able to make it. Where did you learn this from? I learned it from a friend. Li Fan spouted nonsense. Your friends are really amazing. They know everything. You too, learn everything. Yang Weining advised Li Fan. Remember, a person's energy is limited. You've learned so many things, but you're not good at it. Yes, I accept Miss Yang's criticism. Li Fan immediately criticized himself. I'll focus on my studies in the future, so I won't cook for you. Anyway, there's no one at home to cook. You can cook if you want. Yang Weining regretted it immediately. Li Fan didn't cook, and she didn't know how to start a fire. Where could she eat such delicious food in the future? Even if there were, Yang Weining didn't want to let others do it, not to mention that there were no servants to cook for her. Eat more to nourish your body. You eat more too. You're still growing. Li Fan said, I'm already so old, and I'm still growing. Even if I'm acting as the second young master, I'm probably in my 20s. Oh right. Last time you told me. You wanted to join the revolution. Yang Weining suddenly asked, the situation is so chaotic now, who do you want to fight against? Not necessarily, I just have this thought. Before that, it's my job to take care of you. Li Fan secretly rolled his eyes. He didn't even know what year it was now. The situation during the Republic of China was too chaotic. First, Yuan Shikai forced the Qing emperor to abdicate, then old Yuan ascended to the throne under the encouragement of his silly son, wanting to establish a constitutional monarchy, but he failed. Then, Zhongzun led the Braid army to restore the throne, but he also failed. A few years later, the Japanese invaded, followed by the civil war between the Kuomintang and the Communist Party. All of these things happened in just a few decades. Li Fan didn't know which period he was in, but that wasn't important. His current task was to conquer Yang Weining. In this turbulent era, as long as he could make this uneasy brothel girl who had married into a wealthy family fall in love with him, his mission would be considered a success. Theoretically speaking, this should be a small virtual world constructed by the Vermilion Bird. However, Li Fan could not overcome the hurdle in his heart. He could not objectify the woman in front of him. She looked so real that no one could hurt her. Shaoqing, you can't just stay at home. How about asking your brother to introduce you to a job? You're a university student, and your marksmanship is pretty good. Why don't you ask him to recommend you to be Brigade Commander Chen's adjutant or something? With Li Fan's ability, he would be able to make military contributions very quickly and then be promoted. With Brigade Commander Chen's help, it should be even easier. There's no rush. Li Fan waved his hand. These are all small matters. Taking care of you is the important thing. Aya, why do you always like to put your energy on women? Because if you're not happy, I can't work in peace. Li Fan laughed, making Yang Weining blush again. You're doing it again. If you talk nonsense again, be careful that I report you to your brother. Go ahead. Li Fan put on a scoundrel's face. Ask him to transfer me away. You can stay here alone. Humph. Yang Weining was really caught. If she were to stay here alone, she really didn't dare to stay here anymore. She didn't know when those people who wanted to kill them would come again. Tell me. Who sent those gunmen? Yang Weining suddenly asked. I don't know, but they're definitely not good people. Li Fan didn't tell Yang Weining. He was afraid that Yang Weining would feel sad and think that he was a jinx or something. Maybe they want to take revenge on my brother and capture me. Fortunately, your marksmanship is good. Otherwise, you'd be in danger today. Yang Weining thought for a moment and asked Li Fan, how about you teach me how to shoot? Why do you want to learn how to shoot? You can learn how to cook, why can't I learn how to shoot? Yang Weining looked at Li Fan provocatively. Didn't you just tell me that men and women are equal? Okay, then you have a good rest today. Tomorrow morning, I'll teach you how to shoot. Okay. Thinking that she had something to do tomorrow, Yang Weining seemed to be a little happy. Once she mastered her marksmanship, she wouldn't be a burden to junior tutor and junior minister, right? who said that she only knew how to play the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Maybe she could also be a handsome female soldier. After the meal, the two went to rest separately. The next morning, Yang Weining pestered Li Fan, wanting to learn how to shoot. The courtyard behind the bungalow was very spacious. Li Fan brought Yang Weining to the courtyard and placed a few water jars. Women's hands are small, and you haven't gone through any special training. Just use this grenade. Li Fan asked Zhao Sheng to get him an M1906 pistol. This pistol is very small, suitable for a woman like Yang Weining. This gun looks very unique. Yang Weining carefully looked at the gun in her hand. She didn't expect that a killing weapon could be so exquisite. What kind of gun are you using? I'm using this. Li Fan picked up the box cannon he had used yesterday. This thing had been exaggerated in movies and TV dramas. All kinds of soldiers holding the box cannon, shooting from the front, from the side, and their marksmanship was godly. That was impossible. This is because this kind of box cannon is very easy to jump. It is said that the Westerners don't use this thing, but because of the warlords in China, they imported it in large quantities and produced it. However, if this gun does not have a wooden butt, it can only be used horizontally. This way, it can prevent the bullet shell from burning the user's face. Only Li Fan, with his strong arm strength, can use this box cannon freely. To Li Fan, the recoil of the box cannon and the jump of the muzzle are non-existent. This gun is so ugly. Can I try it? You still need to use it. Hearing Yang Weining's request, Li Fan doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. Forget it. You can't use it. You should use this grenade. I want to try. Yang Weining is very curious and reaches out to grab Li Fan's gun. Li Fan is afraid of hurting her, so he let go and let Yang Weining take the gun. I don't believe that a woman can't use this gun. As Yang Weining spoke, she grabbed the box cannon and aimed at the can in front of her. Then, she pulled the trigger. Bang! With a scream, Yang Weining's arm was raised high, and her body fell backward. Chapter 1679. Li Fan took a step forward and caught her in his arms, helping Yang Weining stabilize her body. Yang Weining was a little angry. She said angrily, "Why is this gun so powerful? The recoil of this gun is indeed very strong." Li Fan said as he leaned behind Yang Weining. At the same time, he stretched out his hand and grabbed Yang Weining's hand, helping her stabilize the gun. At the same time, he turned the box cannon horizontally. Horizontally? Yeah. If this box cannon is shot head-on, when the shell pops out, it will easily burn your face. Li Fan stabilized her hand and whispered in her ear. Try firing again. Yeah, Yang Weining looked at the can opposite her. Based on her intuition, she fired a shot. Bang! The shell fell to the side, and the bullet shot straight into the wooden board behind. Aya, it's a miss. Yang Weining was a little discouraged. How do I aim with this gun? It's almost impossible to aim with this kind of gun. It's just for show. It looks ugly too. Then how did you hit so accurately? Li Fan couldn't explain. He couldn't possibly say that he relied on White Tiger to strengthen his ability, allowing him to quickly judge the bullet's trajectory. It's just a feeling. With that said, Li Fan held Yang Weining's hand, changed the direction of the muzzle, and fired another shot. Bang! The bullet shattered the can. Amazing. This shot made Yang Weining a little excited. When can I also practice this kind of marksmanship? You'll get better with more practice. Li Fan smiled. But you should start practicing with this palm thunder first. Okay. Yang Weining nodded. Li Fan leaned behind her and slowly corrected the posture of holding the gun for her. Why do I have to hold the gun with both hands? Yang Weining didn't understand. I see a lot of people holding the gun with one hand. It's very cool. That way of holding the gun is just for show. It's not practical at all. Li Fan explained, only this posture can make the gun more stable. And look ahead, this is called 3 points and 1 line. These 3 dots and a line are your eyes, the ruler of the gun, and the target. Yang Yang Weining was also a little nervous. She took a deep breath and slowly aimed at the opposite can. Li Fan loosened his grip. Yang Weining maintained her posture and fired. Pa! The jar was broken. Ah, success. Yang Weining was very happy. She turned around and hugged Li Fan. A fragrant wind blew against his face, and Li Fan felt a little happy. Soon, she suddenly reacted and let go of Li Fan with a red face. So sorry. Shouting, it's okay, let's continue. Li Fan looked magnanimous. At this time, a familiar voice came from outside. Weining, Shouting, what are you two doing? Weining was shocked at first, then she was delighted, and then she felt a little embarrassed. Brother, you're here. Li Fan looked at ease and said with a smile, I'm teaching Miss Yang how to shoot. The Republic of China era was good. Even if Li Fan said so, Wang Xiaofu didn't think too much of it. The people were simple and honest. Simple and honest. You're also mischievous. When did you learn how to shoot? Wang Xiaofu looked at his younger brother dotingly. I learned it from my classmate. Li Fan fiddled with the pistol. The situation is chaotic now. How can I protect myself without learning how to shoot? You're right. I heard that you killed a lot of mysterious gunmen yesterday. Wang Xiaofu stepped forward to check Li Fan's body. Are you hurt? I'm fine. You should also care about Miss Yang. Weining, are you okay? Wang Xiaofu's gaze fell on Weining. I'm fine. Don't worry. Xiaoqing and Zhao Sheng protected me very well. Yang Weining didn't blame Wang Xiaofu. Instead, she felt happy that he came over. Xiaofu, it's very dangerous to go out now. You have to pay more attention to your own safety. Tell them to assign a few more guards for you. Those clowns, why should I be afraid of them? Wang Xiaofu coldly said, these people are hindering the progress of the times. They won't live long. In short, be careful. Yang Weining suddenly suggested, how about you learn some spear techniques? It can be considered as a way to protect yourself. Forget about spear techniques. I don't have the energy to learn that. If you like it, then learn it so you won't be bored at home. The three of them returned to the bungalow. Wang Xiaofu originally planned to stay here to accompany them for dinner, but soon a guard ran over and said something to him. Something happened. I have to hurry back. Wang Xiaofu put on the jacket that he had just taken off. You two eat by yourselves. I'll leave first. Millimeter, be careful. Although Yang Weining was somewhat disappointed, she didn't say anything. She walked Wang Xiaofu out the door. Li Fan could feel that this cheap brother of his still occupied a large place in Yang Weining's heart. If he wanted to occupy Yang Weining's heart, he still needed to put in more effort. For a month, Li Fan and Yang Weining spent half a month in this bungalow, almost intimately entwined with each other. In this half a month, their relationship had indeed warmed up a lot. Li Fan could feel that Yang Weining had become more and more dependent on him. In this half a month, Yang Weining's spear technique had also made some progress. Xiaoqing, I want to eat your steak tonight. When Li Fan was sitting in the room checking his pistol, Yang Weining came over and stretched out her hand. She gently placed both her hands on Li Fan's shoulder and said to him, Sure, I'll let Zhao Sheng go out and buy some beef. Let's go out and buy it together. Yang Weining shook Li Fan's shoulder. I'm so bored staying in the house. In this half a month, Yang Weining didn't go out at all. After all, Wang Xiaofu had instructed them to stay in the bungalow because it was too dangerous outside. It's a bit dangerous outside. Didn't brother tell us not to go out? It's okay. This is the British concession, there won't be any danger. Yang Weining hurriedly said, I'm so bored that I'm going to get sick. Just take me out for a walk, okay? How about this? There's a Qingshan lake not far away. The scenery is pretty good. Li Fan thought for a moment and decided to fulfill Yang Weining's wish. How about we go there for a walk? Okay. Yang Weining was as happy as a lark. She was even softly humming a tune, which was very pleasant to hear. Li Fan looked at her and muttered in his heart. In history, was there really a person named Yang Weining? Such a cute and affectionate woman. Li Fan was really a bit moved. However, he was also restraining himself. The mission was more important. It was to conquer Yang Weining, not to be conquered. Moreover, it was not a good thing to fall in love with a virtual woman. Yang Weining changed into a beautiful black dress and followed Li Fan out of the bungalow. "Sir, they finally came out. They made us wait for a long time." Not far away, two soldiers hid on top of a small building, watching Li Fan and the others. Chapter 1680. As long as Yang Weining is still under his protection, Li Fan has the confidence to attack Vermilion Bird Pagoda. At the very least, he can guarantee that the Martial Emperor will not be able to complete the mission. There is only one person who can attack Vermilion Bird Pagoda. Even if it isn't him, it definitely can't be the Martial Emperor. Li Fan is worried that the Martial Emperor will also think of this. After such a long time, he should have guessed that he has already entered Vermilion Bird Pagoda. According to the Martial Emperor's character, if he can't get it, he will destroy it. If he finds out that he can't complete the mission, maybe he will directly kill Yang Weining and let Li Fan fail as well. Just as Li Fan left the building, he already felt a murderous aura. The so-called murderous aura is actually a very vague concept. In general, it is Li Fan's perception of danger. The 1-month deadline, if the Martial Emperor arrived a few days earlier than him, his time should be almost up. If he fails the mission, it is estimated that he will be forced to stay in this small world, waiting for him to meet the Vermilion Bird descendant before he can leave this place. In this case, the Martial Emperor will definitely not wait to make a move. The air outside is still the best. Yang Weining held a small parasol and stood beside Li Fan, taking a deep breath of the outside air. At this time, the air in China is still very good, relatively fresh. Even if it is only a small world, Li Fan feels very comfortable breathing. "You say, how beautiful it is here." Yang Weining pointed to the sparkling Qingshan Lake not far away. "It would be good if there is no war. Everywhere is like this scenery. It must be extremely beautiful." "In the near future, there will definitely be no war," Li Fan said. "Really?" After Yang Weining heard this, she also has some expectations. "I hope that I can live for a few more years to see that day." She thought of something and suddenly felt a little sad. "What's wrong with you?" "I just think that at that time, you should have married a young beauty. At that time, your heart will be filled with her and you won't be thinking about me, Miss Yang." "What do you mean by that?" Li Fan smiled. Yang Weining's girlish demeanor really made people unable to help but dote on her. "No matter what, I will always remember Miss Yang in my heart." "Then, you must leave a place for me in your heart." "What about you?" I will also leave a place for you in my heart." Yang Weining pointed at her chest. "Right here. It's such a big piece, okay?" "All right." Li Fan was very happy. This meant that Yang Weining already had him in her heart. This was a good thing, an extremely good thing. He had completed more than half of his quest guide. When everything fell into place and Yang Weining was willing to follow him, everything would be complete. The two of them came to the lakeside. Because it was the British concession, no matter how chaotic the outside world was, it was still like a paradise. Some people of the upper class stayed here and lived a stable life. At this moment, there were a few people boating on the Qingshan Lake, looking very relaxed. "Let's go too, okay?" Yang Weining suggested. "Sure." The two of them boated on the lake. This was a good opportunity to promote their relationship. How could Li Fan refuse? He readily agreed. The two of them rented a small boat on the shore. Yang Weining held an umbrella while Li Fan rowed the boat and slowly swam to the center of the lake. Most of the people on the lake were couples, which made Yang Weining very envious. She was a talented woman of her generation. She loved nothing but heroic young men. Wang Xiaofu had entered her heart back then. She had once fantasized that one day she could play on the lake with her sweetheart like this. But now, she glanced at Wang Xiaoqing sitting in front of her. He seemed to be not bad. She did not feel depressed. Instead, she felt very happy. Perhaps, this was the life he wanted. Or perhaps, Xiaoqing's position in her heart had surpassed that of junior tutor? Oh, how could this be? Could it be that she was a fickle woman? But Xiaoqing was indeed very good. He was outstanding and gentle to her. Yang Weining even felt that she was a little greedy for the feeling of being by Xiaoqing's side. Sometimes she even thought that if she had not married junior tutor, what are you thinking about? Noticing that Yang Weining was staring at him in a daze, Li Fan asked. Ah, no, nothing. There's a flower boat over there. Let's go take a look. Miss Yang was a little flustered. She subconsciously pointed to a big boat at the side and said, My Miss Yang, that's a flower boat. Do you really want to go take a look? Hearing this, Li Fan could not help but laugh. Yang Weining also realized it. But in her heart, she decided to go all the way if she was wrong. That's nothing. There's no harm in going up and taking a look. Yang Weining bit the bullet and said, I just want to take a look and join in the fun. Okay, then let's go take a look. Li Fan did not stop her. If Yang Weining wanted to take a look, then let her. In any case, she would not be at a disadvantage. The two of them boarded the flower boat from the side. The inside of the flower boat was very lively. Seeing them, Yang Weining's expression was very natural. After all, she came from Shuya brothel. In her eyes, these were all child's play. Two esteemed guests, this way please. Seeing that the two of them were dressed well, the madam personally came out to welcome them and led them to a private room on the boat. Young master, do you need someone to accompany you to drink? The madam still asked. There were a lot of people who brought their own prostitutes here. Many of them would still order other girls to accompany them to drink. No need. What about a singer? You can have a singer. Without waiting for Li Fan to speak, Yang Weining had already agreed. After ordering some food and wine, she waited for the madam to leave before saying to Li Fan, We're all here to earn money. It's not easy. If you can help, then help. Okay, it's up to you. Li Fan was almost obedient to Yang Weining. This was also one of the reasons why Yang Weining liked to stay by Li Fan's side. After a while, the singer came in and began to sing a song according to Yang Weining's request. Yang Weining looked through the window and looked at the lake outside. While enjoying this leisurely feeling, she asked Li Fan. This place is very good. Xiaoqing, do you come here often? In all honesty, it's my first time here. Li Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Although he had thought of going to a flower boat and drinking wine with prostitutes, he had never put it into practice. This time, if not for Yang Weining wanting to come up to take a look, he wouldn't have come to this brothel. Why are you nervous? Yang Weining smiled sweetly. I'm not being mean to you. Besides, my family background is not better than this place. If not for junior tutor redeeming my freedom, I'm afraid that today, I would also be sitting in that Shuya brothel, playing the zither for everyone. My brother always said that you're talented. I really want to meet you. Chapter 1681. Why are you so curious? Yang Weining was slightly embarrassed. Moreover, I haven't played the zither for so long, my zither skills may have been neglected. Miss Yang, please do me the honor. Li Fan's smile made Yang Weining unable to refuse. All right then. Yang Weining stuffed $2 to the singing lady, then left her peeper and held it in her arms. She sat in front of Li Fan and began to play the peeper. The light tune, coupled with Yang Weining's beautiful voice, was like the sound of nature. The best music Li Fan had ever heard was the song played by Cheng Mohan. But compared to Yang Weining in front of him, it paled in comparison. Yang Weining, Miss Yang, is the real music master. This kind of woman who can play music that makes Li Fan infatuated, is she really just a character that exists in an illusory small world? How is it? Does it sound good? Yang Weining put down the peeper and shyly asked Li Fan. Although she was already famous in Shuya restaurant, she didn't know why, but today in front of Li Fan, she became a little shy. Even when she played the zither in front of young master, she didn't have this kind of feeling. Looking at Li Fan's appreciative gaze, Yang Weining felt a burst of satisfaction. Miss Yang's zither is not bad, why don't you play another song for this marshal? At this moment, the curtain was pulled open, and a strong figure rudely walked in and directly sat beside them. Behind him were 4 gunmen in Chinese tunic suits. The 4 of them took out 4 imitation German MP-18I submachine guns and aimed the muzzles at Li Fan. General Liu. When Yang Weining saw this man, she suddenly panicked and subconsciously ran over, hiding behind Li Fan. Miss Yang, why are you so anxious? I came today just to listen to Miss Yang's zither. The martial emperor picked up the wine cup and poured himself a cup. This marshal is working hard outside, it's quite tiring. Today, after listening to Miss Yang's zither song, I feel refreshed. Unfortunately, this song isn't for you. Although Yang Weining was afraid, she felt an indescribable sense of security when she was with Li Fan, so she directly refuted Liu Dashui. At this moment, Miss Yang looks like a heroine. The martial emperor's gaze descended onto Li Fan. This is the Wang clan's second young master, right? I was the one who took a fancy to Miss Yang first. I'm afraid it's not good for you to snatch his love away, right? The martial monarch didn't expose Li Fan's identity, just like how Li Fan didn't expose his identity. In this place, they were restricted by the rules of the game. Even if it was exposed, it would be useless. On the contrary, it would cause disgust between them, and it would produce the opposite effect. General Liu, Miss Yang doesn't have you in her heart. Li Fan faced the muzzle of the gun without the slightest bit of fear. You'd better give up. Even without Miss Yang, you can still achieve your goal. As long as the 4 saints were activated, the passage to Sky Beyond Sky would open. From the looks of it, you seem to understand this marshal's purpose. The martial monarch chuckled. What this marshal wants is this world. You can take the world, but she's mine. Li Fan's words made Yang Weining's heart melt. Second young master, you're trying to steal your own brother's woman. That's not good, is it? You're completely wrong. Li Fan retorted, Miss Yang hasn't gotten married yet, nor has she entered my Wang clan's door. I still have the right to pursue her and defend my love. Defend my bullshit love. The martial monarch was a little impatient. He fiercely slammed the table and shouted, let me tell you, if you don't hand her over to me, I'll make your Wang clan bleed like a river and die without an intact corpse. Yang Weining was scared out of her wits with just one sentence. Heh, who are you trying to scare? Li Fan scoffed, if you could do it, you would have done it long ago. Marshal Liu, here, you're just a small warlord, and you only have 20,000 people under your command. So what? At least I have more people than you. The martial monarch sneered, and there are only 4 people here, they can take your life. Is that so? However, Li Fan pointed out the window, take a good look, whose people are outside? The martial monarch and the 4 gunmen all turned their heads and looked out the window, but there was only the rippling surface of the lake outside. The martial monarch cried out in his heart, not good. When he turned around, a box cannon was already staring at his head. Come on, let your men shoot. Li Fan's finger pressed on the trigger as the martial monarch broke out in a cold sweat. Who knew, if he died in this space, would he die with him in the real world? The martial monarch didn't have the white tiger and the divine fox cheats. Because he had forcefully requisitioned the souls of the 4 saints, the souls of the azure dragon and the black tortoise were both in a deep sleep. No one could help him. Here, he only had a slightly better physique, how could he be faster than a pistol? The 4 gunmen behind him were also panicking, but their marshal was being restrained, so how could they dare to move? At this time, the martial monarch really wanted to shout, don't worry about me, quickly shoot. But he didn't dare, he was also afraid of death. Especially since he had already died once, he didn't want to lose his life again. Put down your guns. The martial monarch immediately ordered the gunmen to put down their submachine guns. Just as Li Fan's eyes fell on the 4 people, the martial monarch suddenly lifted the entire table with both hands. He rolled on the ground and picked up the submachine gun on the ground and fired at the other side with all his might. 222. The bullets shattered the table, but there was no one on the other side. The martial monarch rushed to the window and fired at the lake outside. The bullets hit the surface of the water with a pa-pa sound. The martial monarch frowned. He had actually miscalculated again. Li Fan, this brat, was truly cunning. In this kind of situation, he actually managed to slip away. At this time, Li Fan was holding Yang Weining and diving into the ice-cold bottom of the lake. With the help of the white tiger, Li Fan was able to freely breathe oxygen from underwater. Yang Weining obviously couldn't hold on any longer. After diving for a minute, she started to struggle with all her might. Without hesitation, Li Fan kissed her on the lips, sending in a steady stream of oxygen. With a desire for oxygen, Yang Weining greedily sucked on Li Fan's tongue, and then sucked in oxygen from his mouth. "Ma Dan, this is too exciting," even Li Fan couldn't help but mutter. And because of this kiss, it seemed that he had finally opened up Yang Weining's heart. A white light appeared around him, pulling Li Fan's body into another world. The moment before he left, Li Fan seemed to see Yang Weining's panicked eyes. The plan to conquer his sister-in-law had been successfully completed. But at that moment, Li Fan felt his heart ache. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.